Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's matches for EMEA Contenders Trials. We've got some great ones up on the horizon. It's going to be starting off with Nihili going up against Obey Alliance, and we're following that up with another fantastic match between both Hotbath and Young and Beautiful, who continue to scale and improve. Your casters for today are going to be myself, and I'm joined by the always wonderful Moxie. Mox, how are you feeling today?
Pretty good, pretty good. Love to see Overwatch. Love to see some teams that we've actually got to see in action previously, though. Vox, Nihili, and Young and Beautiful. Both of these guys grew as the series passed. So whether or not they'll be coming out of the starting gates that warmed up, or whether we're going to see that progression yet again, I'm looking forward to either way.
Both of these guys could really use a win. Ladies and gents, we're just waiting for the lobby to load up, and we'll be getting back into it. So we're going to send you guys to a quick little break. Promise we'll be back with all that Overwatch action. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience and waiting for that quick little break. We're getting some tech issues on up. We're ready to hop in, though, to Obey Alliance versus Vox Nihili for our first match of the day. Mox, this is bound to be a good one, isn't it?
This is Vox Nihili's last chance to sort of try and prove themselves in Trials, though. They're lagging behind 0-2 for that win-loss ratio at the moment. If they want to get a point on the board, now's the time.
Definitely. I mean, looking at the roster, though, is definitely one that I want to do it with. They've got Vendetta, Alex, Theomatic, NKV, Froakie, and Matt. We know Alex, NKV, and Froakie were all playing very, very well yesterday, even though they did come away with a loss. Obey Alliance, though, are not a team I'd really want to mess with. Lethal, Helv, Senny, Admiral Raptor, and Khan. Chow is kind of loading up that second DPS slot. I've heard some things about them having a DPS dropout and him filling in, but he's doing a fantastic job on the Tracer, so I have absolutely no qualms with what Obey Alliance have been up to. Definitely gonna be a really hard third match here for Vox.
Yeah. For Obey Alliance, though, they need to get this one on the board, though. They're currently sitting at 1-1, and that's teetering on the brink of being knocked out of potentially getting into Contenders Trials. Sheer Cold are currently up 2-0, Dark Mode the exact same scoreline. If you want to match those guys and vie for that second place, you've got to take the win today.
I mean, Vox and Nihili have kind of had the opposite end of this stick, right? They have played both Dark Mode and Sheer Cold, so they've gotten the two arguably best teams in their group out of the way, but now you go to Obey Alliance, and it's another just heavy hitter. And we know as a fact that, 3 losses is almost guaranteed. That is it. You're done out, no chance at Contenders. 2, you're teetering on, and you're really hoping for somebody else to find a loss somewhere, because you're relying on them to actually put you up. But Obey Alliance, this is their opportunity to not stay out of that, like you said.
And Vox Nihili must be really happy with the map pull for this day. Busan, Junkertown, Anubis, Iconvolt, Nepal, and if need be, Ilios. I point out Junkertown now because when they went up against Dark Mode, the strongest team currently in Group A, that was the one map that they were able to walk away with a victory on.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really interesting fact, because Vox Nihili have avoided Roadhog like the plague. We saw them run it one time yesterday on Hollywood for about 2 minutes and then swapped off of it in favor for a Diva, which didn't help them out anymore. So considering that Junkertown seems to be one of Roadhog's stronger maps, the fact that they won it is really interesting, and I'm curious to see whether or not they actually do run more of that Roadhog today.
Well, we saw them yesterday very stubbornly stick with Winston Diva, sometimes Winston Zarya, but always that really heavy lean into dive. And that's all well and good, it can work out. However, you've got to be able to keep your front line alive, and something that happened consistently was that Theomatic was the first one going down. If Vox Nihili are without that Winston, they don't have anything to draw the attention away from the rest of the members of the team, and so that backline looks extremely vulnerable, and Obey Alliance can just walk in and take up that space.
Yeah, if there's ever a group that I would expect to punish an out-of-position Winston, it's going to be the DPS of Obey Alliance. Lethal, I mean, one of, I think, everybody's picks for best DPS in EMEA Contenders Trials right now. Locking up the Sombra has looked incredible on the Ashe, and Xiao's Tracer has been pretty solid so far.
A lot of these guys as well, both teams in fact, locking in that Moira Lucio, and I like this. It means that both teams are going to be very proactive, very aggressive. They'll have that speed boost, they'll have the Moira, so if the peel isn't there, you can just use that fade to get yourself out, and that means these Winstons get much more from their off tanks.
There's been so much more backline peel as of recent, but it's all about the front line right now as the Divas drop pretty low here. That's going to give Helv a lot of room to work with, putting a ton of damage in. You see already 40% up to the ultimate. Meanwhile, Alex goes down and starting out fantastically for Obey Alliance.
You're missing that Sombra, you don't have anything to try and keep Helv in check, and that Winston just gets to go absolutely ham, forcing Vox Nihili away as Obey Alliance will be picking up the first part of this point. Can already going to be closing in on that Coalescence, but not because the team took so much damage, though. He's already got that one built up, and so Vox Nihili can use that as their silver lining to brute force their way into the next fight.
But Moxie, Lethal has 75% of that EMP. Alex only 30% because they went down first. Ultimate-wise, I think that's got to be the most important part to me, because Lethal has a chance to get that up in just this fight, which would make for a really Really impressive ultimate charge time. Help's gonna go on the aggressive though, obviously gonna be met by the Coalescence. Nat needs to capitalize on this though. They need to find a pick early, but Khan's got his up in time, and now the ultimates are starting to come online for Obey Alliance. They've got the pulse bomb, it's taken out NKZ from the mech. Lethal doesn't want to use this EMP, but will if need be. He's getting a little bit dicey. We're trading supports for supports though. Losing Khan and Admiral Raptor is awful for Obey Alliance. They definitely should have been committing that larger ultimate.
Lethal just wanted to hold on to that EMP, got far too greedy, thinking they'd already won the fight, didn't need to put it in. And now, Froakie has the Science Barrier to counteract it. As long as the Lucio doesn't get caught out in the blast, you'll be able to come in with the ultimate, save the rest of your team, and allow Alex to hit that EMP to counteract Obey Alliance's attack.
Yeah, that entire advantage that they had is effectively now down the drain. Yes, you have a Graviton, but there's always the threat of NKZ. Goblin this one right on up. EMP early, though, connects onto the D.Va sound barrier to counter it. Another hack onto everybody right when they were trying to follow up on the Graviton. It's going to be pretty much dead even trades here. In fact, no, it's Vox Nihili in the lead, even without the Graviton. The bomb's going to give him enough peel, and the point will continue to tick up their way.
Froakie did not get caught out in the EMP, and he's able to drop the Science Barrier, keep everyone alive even when the Graviton comes through. And now Obey Alliance, they've used up their best cards. They've got to use the Pulse Bomb dry. Admiral Raptor's going to have that Science Barrier. The only thing he doesn't have to worry about is Alex's EMP, so he can use it to go aggressively. But Vox Nihili will be able to hit that Coalescence and have so much more sustainability and aggression to their name.
The nice thing, though, is Obey Alliance, they still do have a sound barrier. Lethal is 20% ahead on the next EMP. It's just they needed to use it this time. In goes Hell of Sound Barrier to help the aggression out. Pulse Bomb connects, but it's going to be canceled out by those support ultimates. They need to avoid this Coalescence, though. Nat pops another early one, taking NKZ out of mech. Khan's going to get his online, but it's a little bit too late here. They've made the space, but do they have the damage to capitalize? They've taken out NKZ, but Obey Alliance are going to need more than that to win this fight.
Vox Nihili are going to need a Science Barrier in this next fight, though, because Obey Alliance, they've won this fight, and now they'll be coming into that EMP. It's a race between that Sombra and that Lucio to hit their ultimate first, because if Obey Alliance don't hit that EMP before that Science Barrier comes online, Alex is going to get aggressive with one of his own.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of very aggressive EMPs, more so proactive. It's been what has been far better for both of the teams to go aggressive with it, but with Lethal dying first, this EMP is completely uncontested. Moxie, Vox Nihili, so long as they can follow up on it, they should be all right. They used 3 ultimates to win this fight, though, and they might not even do that as this Graviton connects. No, it was a desperation from Kenny, but it's not going to pay off.
It's a big investment, but it's one that they need, especially if you're running up against Dive. Because this is how the composition works, though. Eternal stagger all the way to that final fight territory. And now Vox Nihili have stamped their possession off the point. They're making sure Obey Alliance cannot tip it out to 99% by just spawn staggers. And they'll be able to hit ultimates far, far faster. And that's about to hit that Coalescence.
Well, he'll get the Cole, but you have to avoid so much more. The Pulse Bomb, the other side's Cole. Admiral Raptor's nearing up on the sound barrier. It's only a matter of time before Obey take this one. Vox Nihili need to end it early. They took down Admiral Raptor just before it. The sound barrier connects. Oh man, this is falling to bits for Obey. They need to protect their tank line right now before that Lucio gets back in, but they can't.
The Lucio, he's gone 1% to sound barrier as we see that last tick of percentage go to Vox Nihili. And they did such a good job of targeting that backline. Even when everyone is just brawling it out on the front, that Lucio was constantly under pressure, and that's got to happen when you've got a Sombra. When you're putting all of your win conditions onto EMP being huge, you can't afford a support to be hiding around a corner, jump out, drop the beat, and save everybody from what you've been trying to build up to. And that's exactly what we're going to see again as we head into downtown. You're still going to have the Sombra, you're still going to have the Lucio, you're still going for the aggression, and you're still going for that power play.
Yeah, and like we mentioned earlier, it's all on the supports to kind of peel for themselves, keep themselves alive. So Admiral Raptor being caught out a few times, I think definitely is down to just Lucio movement. Froakie has had the cards in his hand the entire time. Go all the way back to what? The first EMP that we saw when he was hiding from it, got the sound barrier off. I haven't seen anything quite on that level from Admiral Raptor yet. We know he has a strong Lucio, it just hasn't quite shown up yet.
A lot of it is actually down to the fact that all of the peel currently from Obey Alliance is going on to health. The Zarya bubbles always on the Winston. The Tracer always trying to just annoy the person who currently wants to take out that main tank, and it falls down to Admiral Raptor to keep himself alive. Froakies playing a little bit closer to the rest of the team, and he's also got a D.Va rather than the Zarya bubble. And Zarya bubble has a hefty cooldown though. Once that bubble gets pulled out, it's not going to be up for at least 7 more seconds. And that means Defense Matrix, with its 1 second cooldown that it's now been reduced to, is doing an awful lot more in taking damage away from Froakies Lucio.
And I feel like another thing that the D.Va does is it allows you to take the fights back to front as opposed to front to back. The Zarya can move forward, but she's going to be beaming down those tanks for a while. She can't dive the back line. Vox and Nihili have found picks on the Moira, the Lucio so many times because they have access to that back line before they have to deal with the tanks.
And it's going to be the exact same thing that Obey Alliance have to deal with this time, though. It's going to be different supports and a different DPS. Lethal's onto that Ashe to try and take up this high ground and contest Vox and Nihili before they're even able to get close.
This is what I wanted to see from Lethal. Start working with this high ground, take some off angles, and carry on the Ashe. We know he can do it. One of the strongest hit scans in EMEA Contenders trials. Can he perform? It's all on his back, especially when you're running the support lineup. It's not going well, though. He's been avoided. All the sightlines gone. He wants to be working with them, but he can't really do that when there's a bubble, when there's a wall, when everything's in his way. He'll find a pick on the Thematic, and his health gets picked back up. Obey will get a chance to try and retake this one, but his Vox and Nihili currently taking up percentage.
Vox and Nihili on that dive, it's just a matter of how long they can stagger the side. NKZ's able to take out Chow, and you're just waiting for Thematic to come back into this fight. That's when the big health bar returns.
Yeah, this should get up to about 20%. Actually, they're going for a re-engage here with the Coalescence. This is a huge commitment from that, but it's looking like it's paid off. They've got all 6 members back up. And on this point, Obey have a ton of damage, though, as well as that Graviton just on the horizon. Khan's going to chuck a Nano in as well to solidify things here for Obey. But Vox and Nihili definitely getting a fair bit of percentage out of it after committing that Coalescence.
Vox and Nihili didn't even need to win that fight, though. Look at what they've pulled from Obey Alliance. Bob, Nano Boost, those are 2 things that you normally use to stagger out a fight to make sure that you earn more percentage than you're supposed to. And Vox and Nihili, all they committed in themselves was a Coalescence and a Pulse Bomb. And now they're going to be coming into that big win condition, EMP bomb combination. The one thing Obey Alliance have going for them currently is that they've got the Graviton and Froakie is lacking that Science Barrier to cancel it out.
Yeah, it's an issue we've seen a lot, though, with Gravitons, is there's not all that much damage in the dive to help out with it, but when Lethal's hitting heads, I mean, do you even need anything more than that, Mox?
You're not going to have the Science Barrier, so you don't have to worry about chipping down those massive health bars, and if you chuck in an Anti-Nade on the top of that, which is, you know, Khan on the Ana has the liberty to do, then it's all going to come down to NKZ. This D.Va's got to eat both of those things. First, the Graviton. Second, the Pulse Bomb, which is coming pretty close. The Big Alliance holding onto the Graviton until it comes online, in fact. So now that D.Va's got to do double duty.
Oh boy, the Graviton's in. Alex down, doesn't get to pop the EMP. Vox and Nihili basically have no choice but to just reset after this when they don't want to commit ultimates to this, but they're also letting Obey charge up theirs.
Obey Alliance being so restrained on those ultimates as well. They only commit the Graviton and the Valkyrie, and the Valkyrie are going to get up in, well, a couple more fights. And Kenny's done his job. He's kept NKZ at bay. The D.Va was trying to deal out Lethal rather than keeping an eye on that off tank, and so you've got a free ultimate, and now if you're Obey Alliance, you've got free stagger points. You've got the Bob, you've got the Nano Boost, you've got the Primal Rage, all of these things that Vox and Nihili are going to have to work around when they want to pop EMP.
Oh, they pop that EMP. Do they have the follow-up damage? No, the Bob to peel. Lethal still on the high ground, dealing obscene amounts of damage right now, Moxie. How do you even contest this guy?
Well, first you've got to put a D.Va in his face, but unfortunately NKZ is missing from this fight. He's already having to go onto that Hammondale. We're in final fight territory.
Yeah, this is pretty much it for Vox and Nihili. The score's likely to be tied up 1-1, save for some heroics from their DPS. Alex and Vendetta need to pop off right now, take care of at least one of those supports if they want any chance. But Obey Alliance, their target focus is just too good here. As overtime ticks down, their hopes go less and less. We're heading to a 3rd map on the first, Moxie, in our first match of the day.
Obey Alliance solved the issue of the dive that Vox and Nihili were presenting by forcing them to fight on 2 fronts. And it's what they do. They separate the team out. They send Lethal with that Mercy Pocket from Admiral Raptor up onto the high ground, and they force the dive to choose. Do you go for the Ashe, who's being pocketed by the Mercy and is going to chip away at your supports if you send your D.Va too far away that the defense matrix doesn't save them? Or do you go for that front line, and then the dive takes damage from the Ashe? And Vox and Nihili, unfortunately, were just not able to deal with those 2 fronts. Heading into Mecha Base, if Obey Alliance go for the exact same play, then we can expect Lethal to stay on that Ashe, take up one of those high ground ledges above the point, and it's up to Vox Nihili to be able to manage to kick out both of these threats at the same time so that they don't lose Froakie too early.
This is a lot more along the lines of what we expected to see with Lethal on the Ashe. Yes, the Sombra's all right, but the Ashe, I mean, it's just got so much carry potential. Look, Theo's already down! I'm pretty sure that was 2 headshots in a body. I mean, this guy can live for all of a quarter of a second before he goes down. Oh, they have to peel back, though. They need to be careful, because even without the Winston, this push still has legs to stand on. Over NKZ going down, the team slowly bleeding out. Obey are going to find that first point take yet again.
And unfortunately for Vox Nihili, they haven't really been able to charge up ultimates in that fight because Lethal decided it as soon as he got Thematic out. In fact, there's even a stagger going through. Vendetta gets pulled out in the back end of it. On the Tracer, you'll be able to get back in faster. However, you've still got to try and contest Lethal, who's been hitting his shots so much, he's already passed halfway to that first ultimate, and the points only just hit 10%.
Most of the time we'd highlight the fact that Nat would likely have better coalescence charge because you lost, but you don't. Your Winston went down so early. Now you have to dive. It's completely dry. No support ultimates to back it. Con, the second they get this nano boost up, it is all over. But no, it's a primal pop first. Everybody in a small room. The dynamite on top of it. And I'm sorry, Vox Nihili, you've sent yourself right into the blender. Obey are going to punish you for that one every single day of the week. However, Helve gets a little bit too big for his britches. Will get traded out. It's still going the way of Obey Alliance for the time being, but Vox Nihili finding some nice little staggers. In fact, the Moira sitting weirdly in the back line right here. What on earth is Nat doing?
But what on earth are Vox Nihili doing at the moment? Admiral Raptor gets hacked out to deny the resurrection coming onto Helve, but he survives. It's only now that Vendetta's able to connect the pulse bomb onto the Mercy.
Okay, you've got Theo back on point here. They're popping the sound barrier to keep him alive, but it's just a tank and a support you really catch with that. You're still only 3v6 here. Obey very clearly in the driver's seat of this fight. As long as Lethal's alive, that will be the case. NKZ manages to take him down, but there's still ultimates on the horizon. Popping coalescence. Alex has the EMP should they need it. And honestly, it's starting to feel like they will, Moxie.
Oh, that's exactly what they're going to do. EMP goes into it. Obey Alliance try and scatter out before the effects can come properly through. Wait out the duration and then come back in. But Vox Nihili have been able to take the point in all of that confusion.
I mean, that's all that Obey Alliance wanted, though. They're sticking that one out until the EMP. Now they're coming to the next fight. They're going to have ultimates. Lethal's working the way to the bomb. Pulse bomb, though, could end it early. With Kenny gone, you have to press on the brakes. Vox Nihili continue to take up percentage.
Thematic's got to use this Primal Rage to keep Obey Alliance in check. Otherwise, you can even see they're going for the sneaky pack cap, so they won't be able to get it, but at 76%, if they win a single one of these next fights, it will be that final fight territory. And Vox Nihili are just not really equipped to deal with it. They're too far away from EMP, they're too far away from Pulse Bomb. The only thing they can do is delay tactics with Coalescence and Primal.
Yeah, I think Nano Boost as well, severely underrated right now. Can cause a real threat. Kenny, though, being juggled away. In fact, into the backline, he didn't have anywhere to go. Going to be replaced this time with Bob. Still 6v6 on point. Helve hacked out, though. Nowhere to really go, even with the Nano Boost. Has to pop Primal of his own. Chow's taking down Froakie, though. No chance of a sound barrier, keeping the opposing supports entirely shut down. This is great for Lethal now, who just gets a field day above the point.
Lethal's even able to use the coach gun to get himself out of the way of NKZ's mines. And unfortunately for Vox Nihili, there goes all of your control of that space. You've got to wait for Alex to hit that EMP because you don't have the Hammond mines now to shut Obey Alliance to kick them off that point.
But that's the nice part. They will have the EMP for this next fight, and they're setting it up pretty quickly.
They've got to set it up pretty quickly that this will be final fight territory. And if you don't win this fight out fast enough, though, Kenny's going to hit that Graviton. Admiral Raptor's got that Valkyrie to make the damage stick, and you're just going to be ejected right away.
End it off the EMP or end this map with the lost. Froakie also has a sound barrier coming online, but it's a little bit further off. Looking to get aggressive. Alex finally has that EMP. How many can he hit with it is a big question. Has he used in the Graviton? It only caught the Zarya now. Kenny backs up safe and sound with the rest of his team. Sound barrier now for a re-engage from Vox Nihili. Can they capitalize? Chow goes down. Helve, though, peeling beautifully for his backline, holding on to the dive. In fact, finding 2 to his name. The res even goes through in the middle of all that. Lethal is still up. The point's ticked over for Vox Nihili, though they're large and in charge. Obey need to come back and win this re-engage to take this point back over.
And that's going to have the coalescence thing come.
What a big pulse bomb from Vendetta. No main support, no life stand on. 4% to the point. Is there even a touch here, Moxie?
They do. They've got the contest. There's the Tracer in the back, but the Forces can just turn around and deal with her.
There's no more damage left for this team. Lethal and Kenny now gone. You have to stagger this one out. Health popping Primal hacked out of even that as overtime ticks down. Chow is doing everything in his power to hold on to this point, but you can't afford to lose players. You need these picks. You need a Lethal on the high ground to do a little something. Kenny can only do so much though when you're hacked on Wrecking Ball. You just gotta sit there and take damage. Vox Nihili gonna clutch out the third map here and close out the round.
Froakie stands out to me so much, not just on Sanctuary though, but there, where we got to see him be able to hit that sound barrier. He was 15% away from it, and he was able to have it online for when the Graviton comes through. So even though the EMP isn't huge, it still dissuades Obey Alliance long enough for that Sanctuary to come back in and save all of the members of Vox Nihili sitting on it. And Obey Alliance really trusted that Graviton. They were knowing that that was going to be win them the fight, and they put all of their resources into it so that when the fight goes on longer than they expected, they just don't have anything left. And then Khan goes down, and Admiral Raptor can't get the res off, whether it was on cooldown or whether or not Vox Nihili were just doing too good a job of camping the corpse. Well, we don't really know. But the Mercy doesn't get the res, the Ana doesn't get to come back in, doesn't get to build up to Nano, and we see Obey Alliance suddenly in an absolute scattered state where they've got to send the Tracer to try and go for the back cap and do the exact same thing that they were finding so much value with on that second map, Downtown, where Vox Nihili's attentions were split two ways, but that time the team were ready for them.
And you know what? As good as Froakie Sombreys have been, and don't get me wrong, they've been great, I felt like Obey Alliance was winning that final fight. Helv was peeling well for the backline. They actually had a one-man advantage, but they gave up a ton of ground. They backed up through the choke point, and then from then on, it was just the fact that Vox Nihili had ticked up the point in the meantime while they were busy dealing with the Graviton, and then moved forward afterwards, taking away all that space. Obey Alliance, they had the fight. Even though the Soundberry came through, they were in an advantage. They just didn't capitalize on it. They didn't hold their ground. And on a map like Junkertown, which we're loading into next, that's going to be really important.
You've got to hold your ground. If you give the attackers a single centimeter, they will take a mile, they will take the point, they will take the map. That is why I'm really not a fan of seeing defense roll out with Mercy Zen, because the second the attackers walk anywhere near your direction, you just don't have enough sustainability, and you're relying on your DPS so heavily to get not just one early pick, but ideally two, so that you can actually even out the already uneven healing statuses.
Yeah, low healing can be a bit of a problem, but I'll tell you what else is one, Moxie. This map is a fantastic one for everybody's favorite, maybe a tank, maybe a DPS Roadhog. And it looks like Obey are ready to lock exactly that in. Same with Vox Nihili, who have been, like I said, avoiding it like the plague as of recent. It's NKZ locking in the hook.
Well, sometimes you learn that you've got to go for that Roadhog the hard way. He is just so strong at the moment. He's like a third DPS. He takes away so much attention from your front line. And not only that, having him in the mix allows that Mercy and Zen to start to come into the question, especially if you're on the attack, because he's got the Take a Breather ability. Your Mercy can suddenly be back in with the damage boost, helping out the snipers, rather than being so pressured to try and keep 5 people alive when she's running around with 55 healing per second.
See which these healer duos can do better, but it's the Widowmakers to keep an eye on as well. Remember, these are very, very vulnerable supports that Vox Nihili have locked in. Lethal's going to be looking for them. Lethal's been good on the Ashe. The Widowmaker we've seen a little bit less of in recent memory, and it's absolutely going to come down to that battle. It's that or the Roadhogs that are going to be getting the first pick, so keep an eye on these DPS.
Keep an eye on Chow as well, because Lethal's going up against 2 hit scan door. He's going to be up to the Tracer to buy the attention of at least one of them to even out that playing field.
And Chow's already kind of camping out this Widowmaker, playing far along that right side. I love this play, though, from Theo. I was going to say, you know what? They're protecting the Widowmaker. They're keeping her safe, but no. Lethal finds a pick before then, and that's going to give him enough of an advantage to take this fight and hold out into your ground.
You can even see Nat goes for the duel against Lethal, even manages to win it out. But the one thing that's really important right now, Dur, is that Vox Nihili are being staggered. They just lost Alex Fumatic, only now getting himself out of a pretty precarious position, and Obey Alliance just get to farm ultimates off it. That's why we see Roadhog health already 70% to that first ultimate.
Oh, Lethal, he's got the off angle. And there's something I've noticed on Junkertown in recent memory. It's The team that respects the other the least is winning the game. You put a Roadhog on the flank, you put a Widowmaker in the back line, somehow you're one-clipping a Mercy out of a res, and you're going to win this map. You push so far forward, but it's hard to punish when you're running the Roadhog and the Widowmaker.
NKZ is going to be anti-naded. Unfortunately, EMEA Alliance can't make the kill stick, and now that Roadhog is going to be the one showing absolutely no respect for this defense, trying to walk up and take the space to allow Vendetta to go for this duel against Lethal, because at the moment, EMEA Alliance just have all of that ground covered.
Lethal still sit up, though. This is far from free for Vendetta, especially when Obey have a significant ultimate advantage like this. If neither of these Widowmaker find a pick, then it's going to be Obey finding the lead, but they manage to get themselves 2 off the back of their DPS. Vendetta's still in a fantastic position now, has all of the sightlines he could ever dream of to work with. That is if he can deal with Chow, who's currently harassing the hell out of him. Mosquito, if I've ever seen one, but that car's progressing toward the end of the point, Moxie. It's looking like Vox Nihili are right up in that driver's seat.
Whether or not Vox Nihili can manage to catch EMEA Alliance out in these stagger picks is going to decide how far this cart goes uncontested. Alex is the one to fall though, and that means you've got to keep your butt right behind that cart waiting for the team to come fully in, because yes, you've got the Transcendence, but you're going to need it for an awful lot if health pops that whole hog in one of these cramped up corridors.
And that's kind of the issue with Widowmaker being run. Widowmaker inherently just makes ultimates a lot less valuable. There's always the threat of a pick, even through Transcendence, even through one of the strongest support ultimates in the game. There will always be the threat of Lethal connecting headshots, whether it's on a Roadhog, whether it's on a support. Not quite sure yet here, but as Vox Nihili wait out the sights, they've got plenty of time to move forward. Picks in the back line. Kenny and Helv have dropped down. They're harassing people left and right. They're on all kinds of angles, and Vox Nihili just can't deal with it right now.
Oh, EMEA Alliance had that one set up so cleanly, duh. They use Lethal's Infrasight to get all of the information about where to position that Roadhog and Tracer so that they can easily catch out the supports. Nat is their target. They know as soon as the Zenyatta is gone, the comfort of having Transcendence to fall back on is gone as well. And Vox Nihili are forced to invest ultimates like that Sigma Flux to try and make up the absence. And that means the ultimate economy has now been absolutely crippled by their own hand.
Like we said though, ultimate economy clearly hasn't mattered too much. It's always been these Widowmakers, Lethal and Vendetta. Who can find the first pick? Yes, you can start a fight with a Gravitic Flux. It's going to set him up for the shots to take out Vendetta in a beautifully done combo there between the Sigma and the Widowmaker, setting up the shooting gallery and knocking them down one by one.
And there we see the impact of the Transcendence, or rather the lack of it. Lethal's Widowmaker completely nullifies the effect. You're still able to find the pick even through the Zen ult, and House is going to be, casually dropping the Tetleys, as we're going to be seeing EMEA Alliance still in the driver's seat, still with so many ultimates to their name.
Was that a British tea joke that I don't get?
Yes. you
okay, I picked up on it. All right, next fight is still EMEA Alliance in the driver's seat as far as ultimates go. The Vox Nihili have a better angle. They've got their Widowmaker set up. Chow's threatening this back line. Like building up towards another pulse bomb. Lethal's gonna pop those sights yet again here, allowing them to position themselves. The Roadhog searching for the backline. Hell's waiting for the right opportunity, but it's Senny finding Alex first. Kenny's creating some real big problems. Another Gravitic Flux already. This guy's just got one for every fight, Moxie.
Vox Nihili unfortunately lost Alex far too early in that fight, though, because the Ashe and the Sigma are the two heroes they're looking to manage to get that payload moving again. You have the Sigma Flex that chips them down to 50% HP, and then you send in the Bob to finish off the job. Especially because of EMEA Alliance with that Ana, with that Mercy, when they hit the ground, there's nothing to stop the deaths from coming through. No Immortality Field, no Sound Barrier. However, you've still got to survive actually getting those ultimates in place, and that's just not going to happen if you get early picked off again!
I mean, I said it once, I'll say it again. It comes down to which team respects the other less, and right now it's EMEA Alliance in Vox Nihili's backline. How we're sticking together. They are stronger in groups. Lethal, though, taking down Vendetta means he gets free sightlines for the time being, uncontested on this Widowmaker, and all he has to do is just fire shot after shot into this doorway. Kills going either way, and this fight's turned into a bit of a clown fiesta. That cart stopped right at the corner.
Admiral Raptor's down though. This is Vox Nihili's best bet. NQC's so close to those Hammond Mines, but Theomatic's gone down, and you don't have the Mercy to res it back up.
Oh no, oh no! Lethal's there again! Oh my god, they just wrap around, whether it's a Roadhog, whether it's a Sigma, whether it's a Widowmaker. They're just not watching their backs enough, Moxie, and EMEA Alliance are happy to punish them for it.
There's nothing contesting Lethal at the moment. As Vox Nihili are on to just the heroes that can get back onto the cart faster. Alex is even onto the Sombra to try and hack out one of these tanks, deny one layer of shielding that Lethal can just hide behind comfortably.
Oh, truck overtime with the Hammond. Lethal though, still this guy doesn't take breaks. Rain fleets nowhere shine. He's like the USPS because every single day he shows up. One shot onto the Hammond. Just need to take down NKZ to get rid of the rest of those health bars. And it's gonna be Obey Alliance stopping him here at point B.
They just don't have anything right now that can contest Lethal. Not the ultimates, not the space, not the card in their possession though. We see a huge dynamic shift as soon as Vox Nihili just put Vendetta onto the Tracer, off the Widowmaker, and suddenly you don't have anything to really contest Lethal. And Obey Alliance buy into that Widowmaker so much. Health doesn't come back onto the Reinhardt because it's faster to get back with that charge mechanic. No, they come back to offer a second shield for Lethal to hide behind. That means that you've got to get through the Sigma, then you've got to get through the Reinhardt, and then you've got to get close enough to actually land the shots onto that Widowmaker.
And you know what? I think we've kind of wondered, you and I, why Vox Nihili are struggling. We say it's not because they're kind of lacking that star power. They've got plenty of it. I think it might actually be because they don't have a super specific or a super specialized DPS lineup for the Ashe Widowmaker meta. Because while Vendetta and Alex are good, and yes, they'll lock in double sniper, they still couldn't compete with Lethal.
To be fair, they could on point A. But as soon as they have to start walking towards that Widowmaker and she's got two shields to hide behind and all of the peel available, and the Tracer isn't harassing her because it's so much harder when you don't have control of that space in point B to close the distance without being seen, without immediately being sent packing, that's when we see Vox Nihili fall off in terms of that DPS lineup. And now in their defense, they'll have access to all of these sightlines. They have to do the exact same thing that Obey Alliance just carried out so precisely, so textbookily. They have to be able to get a pick off before this fight properly starts.
And that's the really hard part. There's a lot of weight on the shoulders of the defensive Widow here. It's so much more punishing if Vendetta dies compared to Lethal. If Lethal dies, it's just a couple seconds off the clock. If Vendetta dies, it may as well be the whole damn point. Chow now searching for the back line. And Lethal's on the same exact off angle. This time, though, it's a little bit better defended by Vox Nihili.
You still have to watch out for that Tracer, though. The Widowmaker's seen it, and now Vendetta's attention is completely away. If Lethal goes for a peek, he won't be punished.
I love these angles from Lethal right now. They're really creative, but none of them have really turned up in any sort of way. In fact, no, it's Chow and Chenny in the back line finding plenty of value. They've pushed Vox Nihili so far back, they just don't have any cover to hide behind. The hooks are free, the accretions are free, and Chow's one clipping people like it's nothing.
You can even see Froakie reduced to just using that Cad Blaster to try and find a pick as his team falls. Vendetta's the only one left. But Lethal showing no respect. NKZ's coming back on the D.Va to peel. Just the exact same mentality of health coming back to that Reinhardt. Try and put the defense matrix and try and bully these players away from the Widowmaker, but it's just not working out.
No, Vendetta has to take an aggressive angle, will be punished for doing so. Obey Alliance are going to commit a couple of ultimates for this, which, if I'm Vox Nihili, I'll take is nice, but you also give up your position on the second point for that.
And now we're seeing Vox Nihili know that they have to try and just come into this fight as quickly as possible, swapping into dive. Swapping into dive door against a Roadhog with Hull Hog primed and Kenny with Sigma Flux primed, and Obey Alliance read this out. Admiral Raptors onto the Brigida with that shield bash to keep an eye on Khan's health bar.
I mean, this is just gross. Vox Nihili have no ultimates. Obey have all the time in the world to look for these staggers. Hell will be set up on the high ground. Kenny will be set up on the high ground. Lethal have all the sight lines he could ever want. Yes, you dive towards the Widowmaker, but you're already giving up that room. You're only just walking into the honey trap they've set. There's a couple of ultimates lying in wait for them. We know Kenny has the Critic Flux, and there it is. It's gone into Alex. He's not going to be healed up nearly enough. They've lost the Sombra. No chance of an EMP anytime soon. As well, looking for more in the front line. If one of those tanks goes down, that's going to be it. That's going to be Obey Alliance progressing this court all the way. 2 members on it. Are Vox Nihili even going to contest it, Moxie?
And because Vox Nihili with the dive went for that Widowmaker, they didn't go for the tanks, they didn't go for the meaty health bars, they don't have ultimates. The only thing they can hope for is that Nat will be able to hit Coalescence in this fight and keep them afloat until something like an EMP comes through. But Health is playing,
they're not going to get it.
Letting him pass.
Oh my god, 0.3 meters. They barely get them. No, step off, Moxie! I mean, it wasn't looking good for them anyways. They probably weren't going to get it, but oh, that's just some salt in the wound.
It's such a tragedy when teams just step off that cut, but look at it realistically. They're coming in on stagger picks. NKZ was already forced to swap onto the Hammond. You're going up against a Whole Hog, who is just keeping you at bay, splitting off half of your team, allowing a Bay Alliance to keep the setup that they had, keep all attention off Lethal, and you're already at a disadvantage when it comes to those ultimates. Coalescence is going to keep everyone alive for milliseconds in the face of all that damage, and that's if you don't get hooked or burned out of it by a Tracer.
Yeah, I mean, the last fight clearly wasn't great for Vox Nihili. It wasn't one they had any sort of advantage in. They were coming into the back foot. They were coming in off picks. Obey, though, I want to look at the theme of the match, because I think witnessing the lethal effect right now, it fucked up one on its own. It just got really tough once things got indoors and the dives got a little bit easier for Vox Nihili because you didn't have any option but to fight the game close. But now we're playing on Temple of Anubis. We just played on Junkertown. The sidelines only get more open as this series goes on, which I think only helps Lethal, but the score still tied up 1-1, anybody's game.
Yeah, and for Vox Nihili, the real thing for me is whether or not, if they come out on that dive, the target that they go for. They really put everybody, and I mean everybody on that team, Sombra, Tracer, Winston, D.Va, Lucio, Moira, all of them looking for that Widowmaker. And they couldn't find it. They couldn't make the kill stick to them because they went for that very small health bar target. They just weren't able to charge their ultimates up fast enough to actually offer a Bay Alliance an even fight when we get to that final territory where the payload is right down the finish line. And if they continue to do that, if they can only take Lethal out of the picture by putting the entire team on them, then when are they going to be able to pressure out the point? When are they going to be able to equalize that ultimate economy? Because a Bay Alliance will be able to take out their tanks, take out their supports, and always be ahead of them in that game.
And I think that's kind of the weird thing, is in map 1, we were praising Vox Nihili for targeting the supports, especially in the double bubble versus double bubble matchup, because they had access to the backline from running the D.Va. But all of a sudden, when you're playing against a Roadhog Sigma, those options kind of narrow down the second you overcommit. Yeah, even if you kill Lethal, he's probably just going to get resurrected anyways. You have to be a lot more patient with your dives, and we're not really seeing that from Vox Nihili anymore. On Temple of Anubis, I think that's only exemplified. You have to be patient, not give up too much while you wait for your Sombra to charge up EMP, and pray you combo off that.
And that's something that I'm also looking to see. Vox Nihili's EMPs in those first maps of Busan were very aggressive, and a lot of the time they didn't have that ultimate for the immediate follow-up to translate that ultimate into the kills that it can reap. And you have to have that cohesion going with a Sombra. You put so much into an EMP to build it up, you've got to put that same level of resources into the aftermath.
I think that's a big advantage that Vox Nihili have, though, is in their Sombra play. Lethal's good at a lot of things. Sombra, he's all right at, I'd give it. And I think if Vox Nihili can capitalize on that and try and force them to play that Sombra that they don't want to, then you're looking at a pretty good matchup. On the defense, though, Lethal's going to play Ashe every single day of the week, backed by Admiral Raptor, a Mercy who I don't think enough people are talking about, Moxie.
This guy. We don't talk about him, and when we don't talk about a support player, though, it means they're doing their job. It means that they're not being taken out of a fight early. It means that the reses are coming through, and they're not dumb. They're not putting a Mercy 1 versus against an entire team straight into the jaws of death. And that, I think, is something that a Bay Alliance really have going for them. When I was watching them play on Monday, Khan was getting picked very early on a lot of the time. And I even talked to you about this before the match started. That was their main difficulty, their main problem that they had to sort. Once they ironed out that Ana's positioning, everything would be smooth sailing for this team. And that's exactly what they've done. And it's something that they'll have to continue to do. As Alex now has the choice open to him. Don't go for the Ashe. You're going to constantly be running up against Zarya, Bubbles, and Mercy. You've got to go for the Ana instead.
Well, it's dive. Big difference, though. Alex on the Sombra looking to charge up an EMP to guarantee them a point win. That's going to be pretty tricky, though. The one thing we want to see out of Vox Nihili for them to pull up the hold here is patience. give Alex time to charge up that EMP without feeding away too much ultimate charge or positioning. Currently, it's looking like they're doing a good job of that. They've taken a fair bit of space. They haven't taken any real risk here. Alex, though, only 21% after he's had a fair bit of time to charge is a little bit disappointing, to say the least.
He just hasn't been able to get in at the moment. EMEA Alliance have been doing such a good job at taking all of these really far distance fights. Lethal doing exactly what he's been doing the past couple of maps, though, coming up in that kill feed against Vendetta. But now Alex has got his scent. He can properly start to go for him.
There's kind of two theologies when you're running the Sombra. You can value the dive or you can value the EMP. Right now, it's the dive. Hasn't quite paid off yet, though, because Lethal, although targeted, is still alive, Moxie. When you've got Admiral Raptor and Khan backing you, it's just hard to go down no matter how hard you try. EMEA Alliance are going to hold on despite Vox Nihili's best efforts, although Alex did get up to 70% on that EMP after all that.
Vox and Nihili were playing so passively, and then as soon as the Nano Boost comes out, they get aggressive. Unfortunately, it's too aggressive, though. And that means that, yes, you're going to be able to build it up fast because of all of the damage you're taking from Lethal's far-range poke, but you're missing that opening to let Fumadic get safely in. Instead, it's going to have to be NKZ or Alex to buy up the attention to let that Winston actually jump towards one of these players.
Vendetta? Okay, he stays alive. I was worried about the sightlines there, but will keep his life to himself. Has the Bob for a point here, which is actually a lot better of an ultimate than it may seem. It's going to give them presence. It's going to give them time. It's going to force EMEA Alliance to drop a tank in and commit to that point. The same approach from last fight, though, and with Alex 90% to that EMP, it's bound to catch a lot of people all grouped up on this high ground. And the question is, how well can they actually capitalize on that? Separating them out with the grab on high ground, the Bob on low. Things get tricky from here for EMEA Alliance. They need to respond correctly to this point aggression, as well as to the aggression of Alex's EMP that's bound to come out in just a second.
But Vox and Nihili are thinking about snowball potential right now, though. They don't want to use the EMP if they can't help it. With 1 minute 23 seconds left on the clock, they know it's very unrealistic. They'll be able to build up another one.
But they did it without their main tank be alive. What are they thinking?
And now they are just in absolute pieces, though. They've got to get out as quickly as possible. You've got the Diva Bomb, but you don't have the EMP to open things up. And now you've got nothing to make any of these kills stick when Admiral Raptor goes for that res.
What on earth did I just witness? The latest EMP, but then you kind of combo it with a Bob being thrown in the back line to ensure that they get all those picks. EMEA should have 6 for this fight. Vox Nihili will get a touch out, but all you've got is a bomb to try and confirm it. Meanwhile, that Valkyrie is looking a lot better for them. They're getting a couple of quickly charged ultimates on the back of it. They'll have Pulse Bomb heading in here. It's a dangerous fight for Vox.
Well, they've swapped onto that Lucio Mora to try and take this fight to the point as quickly as possible. They need to kill the Zarya, though. She's high charge, and she is 2% away from the graviton, which can finish Vox Nihili.
That's all the tricks gone from Vox Nihili's sleeve. Vendetta, he can't even walk through the damn door. Lethal's holding him off. Playing bouncer right now. Meanwhile, charging up a Bob that's bound to lock this one in. Such a strong position on the point for EMEA Alliance. So many ultimates still in their back pocket. It's all up to Vendetta's Bob to try and clutch this one out. It's held on the edge of the point, though. It's not actually contesting here, I don't think. Diva's there, though. Pulse Bomb out. Good eat by NKZ to give them a new breath of life on point. EMEA Alliance are far from done with this yet, though.
Fumadic so close to that primary. He's just got to stay in this fight a little bit longer, though, because if he's able to pop it, now can have the timing to get that coalescence online, but he goes down!
There's some fantastic heals going on from Khan right now. On the high ground, uncontested. You really wanted to have Vendetta deal with them, but Lethal, like I said, protecting that Ana with his life, giving Khan all the time in the world to keep his teammates up, and Vox Nihili off of the point. Full hold from EMEA Alliance on point 1. Only 70% given over. This might just be a quick map, Moxie.
It was the same problem that we saw in the very tail end of Junkertown. When Vox Nihili set up the dive, they don't go for the supports, they go for Lethal, thinking if they take the Ashe out of play, Vendetta and Alex can finally come online and grab the spacing to build up EMP and Bob to have much more of an impact and control how EMEA Alliance play onto that point. Unfortunately, Lethal is just too well protected. I don't think I ever saw that Ashe go down without being rezzed up.
No, I mean, if you had Lethal on your team, would you not be doing the same thing?
So now Vox Nihili have to hold this attack at the choke. They've got to delay this fight for as long as they possibly can before it comes to the point. And Obey Alliance, with what they're teasing Lethal on the Genji, they're going to be more than happy to take the fight to Vox Nihili. And so you've got to get proactive. You can't let that Genji close. You can't let him come into contact with Matt, because they've got the follow-up that Vox Nihili are lacking. They've got DPS that can properly go in with the tank lineup, as opposed to waiting for one DPS to be taken out of the picture and then their wings are unclipped.
Actually really sick, because not only do you have that DPS difference like you're talking about, not waiting for somebody to get in position, but there's a threat of an EMP Nano Blade, which is about as deadly as combos get in Overwatch. If there's anybody I want on the back of that blade, it's going to be Lethal. I mean, the guy is a nut on pretty much everything he plays. This time it's the Genji trying to pull it out. The tank's making a bit of space for him. Into the back line he goes. It's all about getting those charges up, though. Obey Alliance aren't looking to win this fight necessarily. It's about the next 1 or 2 later.
And they're not even on a race against time, though. They're not trying to race out a Lucio or a Zenyatta. It's an Ana Mercy, and Valkyrie is going to do absolutely nothing in the face of a nano-boosted Genji.
There's so much patience being shown by Obey Alliance. Vendetta and Alex finally going to be able to punish it by taking out Alex. However, if there's a trade here, Hell's actually in a fantastic position right now. He's going to charge up so much of his ultimate here. In fact, the trade onto Alex. Froki goes down as well. You're in a small room with a big monkey. It's a great set of picks for Obey Alliance. If one of these backline members goes down to Lethal, then they're feeling bad.
They've got to contest this point, all the while Obey Alliance have had a presence on it. And now you're forced to walk into Kenny, forced to walk into the Sombra, the Lucio. There's nothing you can do. You slept on the high ground.
Alex will get a touch out here. There's no ultimates. Nat'll come back with a nano boost, but I mean, that Ana is just so far away. Obey can wait. Obey have time. They've got a Graviton and a Blade. In comes Lethal to end things here. Searching for Lucio, booped away. Not so climactically, but still, Obey Alliance come away with the second map after a very, very dominant hold on Temple of Doom.
They had such a clear win condition, and they knew the exact conditions to get it online. They weren't up against the clock. They could be as patient as they wanted, and we saw that in full. They even sacrificed some of their own players just to be able to hit that blade when they wanted it to. And then the placement, though. They took all of the attention onto the DPS lineup, all of the attention onto that high ground battle, and unfortunately for Vox Nihili, they lost track of the Zarya. And when they finally see, oh wait, we've got to contest the point, you're stuck. You trapped yourself in a corner. You've got to walk into the Zarya, and you've just used up all of your resources on winning out that high ground deal. You've got nothing left for when the ultimates with the Graviton with the blade come out.
And I feel like that kind of surmises the issue for Vox Nihili right now. It's been resource management. They're kind of allocating things in all of the wrong places. They separate their tanks away to dive the backline, which leaves theirs available. They're not reading Obey's compositions quite correctly. And so they're, like you said, they go for it. They leave their support line in the open. They put themselves in a small room. They're not allowing themselves to keep the space that they need to keep their team safe. And Obey Alliance are just taking the space they're given. They're just walking forward slowly, making sure they're not losing anybody on the way in, playing really clean Overwatch. On the defensive side, they know if they play safe, they don't die. Lethal will find picks for them no matter what. Now you're heading into Eichenwald. I think this only gets trickier. However, there's a little bit of a reprieve here for Vox Nihili. I'm pretty sure, at least on the second point, it's very, very likely to be dive versus dive.
But that's what it comes down to, though. The second point. Whether or not Vox Nihili are able to secure themselves that second part of Eichenwald is going to come down to whether or not they're able to come back in this series. They've got to be able to use that Winston and put him up on the high ground. And that means that point A is going to be an absolute slugfest, because Obey Alliance have shown they understand the win conditions, they understand the other side's win conditions, and how best to absolutely torpedo those chances. And so Obey Alliance are going to be doing everything in their possible power, and I mean everything. We are going to see so many ultimates come out from this team door to make sure that that point B stays unlocked.
Yeah, I think it's more than that for Obey Alliance. It's not just identifying win conditions. I feel like they're good at playing two multiple win conditions. Whether it's late in a fight, whether they're fighting a man down or a man up, they always know how to finish a fight off. Early on in the neutral game, a lot of it, yes, it's reliance on Lethal, but the rest of the team, they're doing a fantastic job of making space. They may not be showing up at the kill feed, but they're the ones allowing him to do that. And without losing really any help, the supports, it's been a long time since I've ever seen Admiral, Raptor, or Khan get picked. And that's saying something considering the fact that Vox Nihili have been running Sombra Tracer for a majority of the match.
And talking about Tracer, I've got to call Chow. This is a guy that got dropped into this team, had to try and pick up the slack of a player's absence, and I've got to say, though, he has been doing a stellar job, not just coming up in the kill feed, not just harassing the other Widowmaker to allow Lethal to get much easier shots and control of sightlines, but also contesting space. Every single time Vox Nihili has had to turn around, it's because there's been a Tracer on point, tapping away that percentage, forcing them to turn around, taking attention away from the rest of the team, and allowing everyone else to bulldoze their way through completely uncontested.
Well, it's kind of like we talked about yesterday during the interview with, I'm trying to remember what Tracer player we had. We had a Tracer player in interviewing them, and he described it as playing support, which is pretty apt. Yeah, you're kind of just making space, you're harassing the backline, making sure Lethal has all the space in the world, and then you just rely on your Ashe to carry. And a lot of times, the better Ashe will just set you up to win a game, but it's been so much more for that for Obey Alliance. They're playing out of their minds. If there's ever a time for them to come up, it's going to be now. Their matches only get more difficult. Remember, they're in a group with Dark Mode and Sheer Cold. It'll only get harder, so you can't afford a loss now.
You've got to rack up that win as soon as you possibly can so that your stats can reflect and keep up with the rest of the members in this team, because we're seeing a lot of guys clumped up in the same sort of area. There are a lot of 0-2s, a lot of 1-1s, and a lot of 2-0s. So it's all going to come down to whether or not Vox Nihili are able to keep Obey Alliance in check with this defensive dive composition. And they're going for the exact same thing that they found so much success with on the first part of this series. Froakie on the Lucia has been such a standout, able to keep himself alive. Nat's never been caught out too early on in the fight, always there with the coalescences. For me, it's going to come down to this tank lineup. Is Fiamatic going to be able to safely invade in on the space Obey Alliance are setting up for themselves? Is NKZ's D.Va going to have the same impact we saw in Busan, or will it be the story of Junkertown?
I'm actually really surprised to not see the Pharah locked in here by Lethal. He swaps back off onto the Sombra, which I think is just a little bit of unconfidence, but I feel like a Pharah, I mean, at that point, we would have seen everything from this team. They would have locked in all of the meta compositions in recent memory, and we could have just called it a day. They're good at everything. Vox Nihili, though, playing very aggressive here in the choke. This is super punishable should the damage come through from Chow and Lethal. In fact, even point presence is going to cause them to back up, cause them to be caught on the back foot, and Obey plenty of space to move forward.
That's what they were missing for Vox Nihili, the damage. They had Kenny out, denied the backline peel, but they just weren't able to make the kill stick there. And now, because they're forcing themselves into these really small spaces, that dive just has nowhere to move and maneuver themselves safely out of. And Obey Alliance will get a very easy point A.
I mean, that was a sick push by Chow and Lethal, though. They saw the aggression, and instead of trying to counter it with damage, they ran to the point and forced those tanks to go back, leaving the supports open.
And it's the exact same thing we've seen from Obey Alliance. They have such a good understanding of when to take a fight and when to pressure Vox Nihili into contesting that point. However, Vox Nihili have been able to take control of the high ground. They're going to be coming in because Alex was so much more proactive than Lethal to their EMP so much faster. And now it's going to be a question of who can you catch out in the blast. You've got to hit both of these supports, because if you don't, Coalescence and Sandbar can save the team.
Well, that's a nice lead on Pulse Bomb to start things out. Obey still have this Coalescence, though. Yes, Vox Nihili are coming up on a lot of ultimates, but Obey had them first, and EMP catches a majority of the team, though. And a Sound Barrier commitment as well for Vox Nihili. Even if they win this fight, Moxie, that is so much out of their bank.
But where's the fight, though? Obey Alliance just backed out until Sound Barrier was gone and then come in with a Graviton of their own.
Oh, there might be a fight here. Bomb into that line. Sound Barrier to make sure it doesn't connect. Good timing by Admiral Raptor, but it hasn't won you the fight quite yet. It's Vox Nihili in the kill feed, holding onto this choke for dear life.
But this next fight is going to hit them hard, though. Lethal's got that EMP, and Nat and Froakie have not been able to hit the ultimates that Vox Nihili are going to be requiring to keep them up and alive. And so none of this team can group up. They've got to be so very scattered, and with dive, that means you're missing damage.
Oh man, they might not even need this EMP. Lethal was in such a good position. He got the hack off on NKZ. There's no more defense matrix, no more peel for this Winston. left alive. They even contest them. Lethal now in the back line, dealing plenty of damage. This is going to snowball pretty hard off the back of just that, should they win without the EMP.
But because Vox and Nihili were able to draw out that fight door, yes, they still got to look out for the EMP. They're so close to the two ultimates that can try and swing things into their favor. Froakie Sound Barrier, and then Alex is countering EMP. The Sombra who EMPs last tends to be the one that we see coming off the board. As long as she doesn't get hacked out and is unable to use that ultimate, Vox Nihili should be able to pick up this fight and secure themselves the high ground.
Let's think, I'm sure that Vox Nihili want that high ground, but Obey Alliance have the advantage of positioning wherever they want. There's EMPs on two sides of the battlefield here. It's bound to be back and forth, but Vox Nihili, no! Taking strong control over this kill feed to hold on to the cart and stop B.
Alex wasn't caught in the EMP. And Obey Alliance, they're the ones who EMP first. They catch out to the one support, but they don't manage to catch out the enemy Sombra, and it's exactly as I said, though. Alex holds onto his EMP far, far longer and is then able to use it to counteract all Obey Alliance were trying to put into place. Now you're up on the high ground. You don't have EMP for sure, but you've got a lot that can be used to delay and a lot of things that can defensively go up against Kenny's Graviton. So it's not just down to defense matrix.
No, it's down to the dive. Early sound barrier again from Froakie. It's going to pay off, though. They found Helve with a bomb because they were able to hold such aggressive positioning. Now it's about finding the rest of those picks, rolling that ultimate charge your way, and continuing this hold, Mox.
Kenny's the one that gets hacked out as well. Graviton even came through in that fight, though. But NKC's bomb is able to keep Obey Alliance out of the fight, so they can't really capitalize on it. And it's something that Vox and Nihili are showing themselves to be very, very capable of, understanding what Obey Alliance have to play with in their toy box and putting ultimates on the board to make sure that they just can't capitalize on those very brief moments. However, they don't have those toys to counteract this time.
No, it's all Obey Alliance with those big shiny check marks at the top of their feed. Theo can try and peel his best. Oh no. Oh no, Moxie. No! Lethal! Barrel, dude! Oh, come on! Alright, Fat Cap, you can put it in your YouTube compilation, but I'm not even gonna give him a pat on the back for that one. That's just rude.
+5 to lethal stuff. He's been playing his Skyrim. You know, though? Sneaking around. Brotherhood of Shadows. Obey Alliance going to be coming in with the EMP as well, and this is all they need, but Vox and Nihili going to be going aggressive with one of their own, stamping out Obey Alliance's presence and forcing them back into that neutral fight.
That was just that. You know, it was an effective one. It held the door, but there felt a little bit of malice in that EMP. You know, that's for the back cap.
That definitely felt a little bit more personal than just business. Unfortunately for Vox Nihili, though, they used their best card at trying to keep Lethal's EMP from having any impact, especially with Admiral Raptor. He's got that sign bar to allow Obey Alliance when it comes in to go so much more aggressively.
But Obey Alliance, they've gotten so passive now, and I thought Lethal was out of position for a second, and he was. Vox Nihili got aggressive, appropriately so, but they got too aggressive. They LOS their supports. They didn't get any healing for it, and now you're stuck in a choke point up against Obey, but have ultimates to boot. Your Diva's bound to go down here. Yes, you have the health back, but you don't have any health to work with. They'll trade back 2 off the back of Vendetta, but they're going to need more than that to hold on, Mox.
Obey Alliance as well, keeping a hold of some really big ultimates. Going to invest the Graviton as I speak, but they don't have the EMP. They've still got the Pulse Bomb. No kills coming off the back of it.
I'll tell you what, there's a bigger ultimate you need to be worried about. It's that ultimate spawn advantage. Obey can keep this one going with their ultimates, but Vox Nihili, they don't have to commit that much. It's a lot quicker for them to get back, especially when you're running the Winston Diva. Your tanks are just a little bit quicker to properly seal out of... Oh my god, did Vendetta just walk into a one-clip? Oh my... How? That is nuts. Chow, fortunately though, gonna pick up a few more and actually put some kills to his name. Great job by the Phil.
Now we're going to be at that same sort of impasse though. Lethal and Alex. Who's going to be able to hit that EMP? Not Alex. He's not given the luxury of getting to come out of that spawn door. It's going to be so hard to set this Sombra up. That's all Vox and Nihili need, but Obey Alliance go active first.
You know, we talk a lot about the counter EMP being better. but there it was. Lethal getting the upper hand because Alex couldn't get out of spawn. They have the Graviton to follow up all the cards in their hands. Big bang from Chow to finish things off. With 3 members go for this cart, inevitably reaches the end of Eichenwald. Will it be an overtime is a big question. Absolutely not, say Obey Alliance. Pushing with 35 seconds left on the clock. They guarantee themselves at least one more push, if nothing else.
But Vox Nihili, going off how quickly they lost point A, clawed Eichenwald back. They were able to reduce Obey Alliance to nearly half a minute left on that time bank, and they've given themselves the best shot that they possibly could with that full push coming through from the other side.
Yeah, but matching it, Moxie. Matching is going to be so hard. Imagine they just set up Lethal's Ash. It's going to take a Herculean effort from... And not... It's just so difficult. Obey Alliance, yes, they're a great team, but they are able to be dealt with. We've seen teams do it before. The thing is, Vox Nihili haven't found that key yet. They haven't managed to deal with Lethal or the front line. It's either one way too much or the other way too much. What can they do to fix that?
They just have to be able to win this first fight. That's the problem that they've had this entire time. Junkertown and Anubis, both things in common. Lethal got so much free reign. Every single time that they tried to go for him, they would lose a player too early on. They wouldn't be able to actually properly go for the Ash. They would get halfway there and then have to retreat. And that means you're not charging up ultimates. Obey Alliance get the run of the map, the run of the ultimate economy. Vox Nihili have got to be able to put enough pressure onto this DPS so that you can't just have the Ash free shooting as you walk past that bridge.
Well, it's back to the tried, not so true for Vox Nihili. It's the Winston D.Va dive. See if they can fix things up, though. It's a great composition, just execution has been a little bit lacking in the past couple of maps. Lethal now with sightlines and a Mercy Pocket to boot. It's about to get pretty bloody pretty quickly here. And the fight's going to be decided in the first couple of seconds as long as Lethal's connecting those shots. Up in the side room now, they have a good position on the point, but until then, it's all just going to be hell, poking in, getting a little bit of an ultimate charge, getting a little bit of charge on the Zarya, and getting out. First pick over to Chow, pestering down Alex, and putting a halt to that ultimate charge, more importantly.
Putting a halt as well to Lethal being kept in check. The Sombra's the one that has to pester alongside that. Tracer NKZ's got to be there with the peel for Thematic when he wants to dive, and now Lethal gets to just sit on the high ground.
Oh my god, Moxie. We didn't get enough time to talk about it, but that was so much setup for Vox Nihili, and a really good one at that. Thematic and NKZ split up, go in for the same, and take out that key piece with Lethal out of the way. That fight's ending quick.
Even NKZ as well, going in slightly earlier than Thematic, means that Lethal uses the coach gun and can't deny the Winston. And remember, when D.Va dives, her rockets, when she lands on you, they don't do damage. When Winston's spot lands on your face, you can bet you're going to be taking at least a little bit, plus that melee on the top as well. Thematic and NKZ, tank lineup in perfect synchronization.
Now it's all about retaking this positioning for Obey Alliance. They need to be careful, though, because remember, you put yourself in a small room with Theo and a Primal Rage. You're worried, you dive too early, you're going to be a bit worried. Yes, you can set Lethal up on the high ground, but it's the low ground. It's this inside area that you're really worried about. They've already lost Admiral Raptor. Lethal next without the Mercy Pocket. He's going to fall. Vox Nihili slowly letting it slip here as they take out Obey Alliance.
That, I think, is the first time we see a big slip-up coming out from Obey Alliance in terms of trying to take a fight when they're not really prepared to. Chow even puts in the Pulse Bomb to try and make up for the fact that Admiral Raptor is missing to try and keep people off Khan on that Ana. And now you're just going to be putting yourself right into the sightlines for Vox Nihili to deal with. It doesn't matter if Lethal's able to hit the shots, you're just not given the space to work with.
I mean, this is just the weirdest series. Now we've got Winstons chasing each other around. It's Donkey Kong Country on the point, and a Coalescence? Moxie, what on earth is going on? Vox Nihili are kind of just all over the place. Obey Alliance, off the back of one weirdly timed ultimate, have a fantastic position, but they're going to use that position to just drop onto the point here and start playing some really dangerous games, but has made enough room for Lethal to start popping off on the Ash. He's got the sightlines that he wants, as well as the Mercy Pocket that he's always got.
Vox Nihili want to try and keep themselves in this fight, though, keep that cart right where it is. They know if it drifts any further forward, and Obey Alliance is going to have just the high ground, but Lethal, uncontested, gets to shoot free into the grab of the damage booster, and he's exactly like his namesake suggests, absolutely deadly with that Viper.
I feel like we're just rolling dice and pressing Q whenever they land on one. I mean, people are just chucking out ultimates left and right. What was that EMP from Alex?
I told you, Vox Nihili, they know as soon as they lose that fight, then that payload starts rolling back and Obey Alliance get to set up on the high ground. If they lose that next fight, they have to win 2 more, and that means ultimate economy is potentially going to be against them, especially with Admiral Raptor on this Mercy with that res, able to cancel out 1 impact of this dive.
Good positioning though for Obey. It's the same thing they've always had. Lethal in the driver's seat. Put him on an off angle, bomb over top. It's threatening, but there's a bubble. They should be able to stay alive for it for the time being. It's Chalice Pulse Bomb. That's really the only threat on the board until then. It's going to be a completely neutral fight, though. Theo taking a ton of damage from different angles means that main tank's now down, and Vox nearly have to put on the brakes. You can't push this without a Winston.
And Vox Nihili, that's why they wanted all of the space to work with, though. That's why they put in so much in that last fight. Because they know where that card's standing right now. Lethal gets an absolute dead eye onto it. And look where this Ashe is standing! All the way right by the check mark on the rafters. He's completely uncontested, still with the Mercy damage boosting, and if Vox Nihili want to close the distance, they've now got to take the damage right into their face.
I mean, how do you even reach this guy? Even if they dive with 2 tanks like they did on the first point, it's only going to be from 1 angle. The advantage they had was that it was from 2 sides before. Now, though, he only has to worry about 1 because he set himself up so far back. This dive will come through. It's Winston and Diva, but both of them get knocked back by the coach gun Moxie. He's bought enough time. The sound barrier has to be committed by Vox Nihili. Can they follow up is a big question, as it's going to be everything thrown out on point from Obey to try and bring it back, but they're already down a few members.
And remember, Obey Alliance are going to be coming in with so many more ultimates though. In fact, Khan's even investing the nano boost onto health to keep the Winston up, to delay this fight as long as they possibly can, to let Lethal come in with the Bob, to let Kenny set up this Graviton. So now if you're Vox Nihili, you've got to eat the ult.
Oh, you can't eat a Bob, unfortunately. He may go flying, but he's not a projectile quite yet, or maybe one that's a little bit too big for Defense Major. Now Vendetta searching. Can he find the pulls? No, Lethal gets out unscathed. You get the grab off, you get the Valkyrie off, and that is a lot of damage being thrown in. They swap Helv onto the Reinhardt. They're so smart. They brought the cleave damage in just for the Graviton Surge, Moxie.
And it's something that can't be Defense Matrix either, and now your entire attention's on the Reinhardt. He's taken out of the fight, but the DPS just get to reign supreme once again, and Chow is even going to be going for that greedy first pick, try to build up a little bit more towards the pulse one, but if you can grab one of those supports, if you can catch out Alex's Sombra before the EMP comes through, this fight is as good as finished.
Remember, Vox Nihili need to win this fight right now. Your final fight territory at match point. It's Obey Alliance currently up 2-0, and Alex falls! No EMP popped! It's going to be Obey Alliance. They have to push this one. They're going to push this one every day of the week. Poking, prodding at the back line, trying to draw out ultimates, maybe even a pick here. They're so patient, though, waiting for Lethal to do the work for him. It's Help in the back line, putting on tons of damage, but nothing found. Vox Nihili unscathed for now, with only 5 seconds left on the clock. Alex finds the pick onto Help. The Pulse Bomb won't connect, and the EMP is going to come in from over top.
They're able to touch, but Ankisi's got to go for the bomb before the EMP drops, and now Obey Alliance can just wait out the EMP's impact, use the nano boost, use their entire presence and the respawns.
EMP was only used on Lethal and Admiral Raptor, but both of them are still alive. Khan drops the nano onto Lethal, keeping them up. All the heals in the world. You get the pick late, but it's just a consolation prize for Vox Nihili. We're going to go down an Icon Wall to Obey Alliance 3-1. Obey now currently putting themselves up higher in that scoreboard.
Oh my goodness. That's why Vox Nihili fade that Ashe door. That's why they tried to take as much distance as they possibly could to close it up so that she didn't have a shooting gallery in every single one of these fights. Because in every single one of those fights, after that payload starts rolling its way back past bridge, Lethal just gets absolutely uncontested until the entire team goes for him. And they put so much insta into the Ashe, but there's so much peel available. And yes, you catch out the Mercy, but Lethal's still the problem. You've still got to worry about Khan with those nano boosts, those anti-nades coming through, the Graviton, because you've just used everything in your entire armory to get one player away from a fight.
And even when you do get him out of the fight, it's not even a kill. I mean, Obey Alliance look incredible right now. They've got a strong DPS lineup. They've got tanks that peel. They've got supports that I never saw get picked first this series. I may actually be willing to put money on that. I don't think I ever saw them go down first. Like, that is ridiculous, Moxie.
I think there was one time all the way back in Mecha Base where Khan is the one to fall before Obey Alliance are actually able to get into a fight. But other than that, those supports, their positioning has been near perfect, and they've been able to keep Lethal and the tank line up so very much, and because of that, Vox and Nihili just weren't able to find any sort of stepping ground past that first point.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Vox Nihili, that means they go down 0-3. That's a lot of their hopes for Contenders Trials. They put up a strong fight against some of the best teams in this group, but it was just too threatening, too many incredibly strong EMEA Contenders Trials teams this time. Ladies and gents, in just a moment though, we're going to be coming back with an interview with the man, the myth, the legend himself. It's going to be Lethal up in the call, so stick your eyes on those screens, keep your butts in your seats, and we'll be right back. And we're back, ladies and gents. I promised a quick break, but that was just as much. So another quick thing, though, is how quickly this man was finding picks left and right across these maps. We've got Lethal in for a quick little interview. Lethal, that was a fantastic game. It was a lot of fun to watch. Your Ashe is ridiculously good. But at the same time, we saw a lot of play from your teammates. What clicked for you guys after map 1 to set you up?
Map 1 was more like a giveaway round. We want to give them overconfidence so they like start trolling the next few rounds. So we just, we kind of quote unquote played it, but not really. We gave them the first map, let them, have fun with it. Then we just destroy them the next, like, kind of free, but yeah.
You sound like a team that really goes into these in-depth strategies. So sort of going off that, is there anything that you did specifically to prepare for this matchup?
I played a bit of Hearthstone. and yeah, I think that's it. I just played Hearthstone before a game.
So does Hearthstone help APM? Is it ult tracking? Kind of like, you have to track within your opponent's hand, or what do you think gives you an advantage from Hearthstone? And if you don't mind, what's your rank?
I'm just playing Battlegrounds. Yeah, maybe like 6k something.
Oh,
And it helps you with like quick thinking, I guess. Kind of like a Kappa,
okay.
but I don't know. I just wanted to do something for an hour and I didn't have enough time.
And sort of looking at the map pool then, Busan, Junkertown, and Anubis Eichenwald, we saw that you guys rotated a lot of Ashe and Widowmaker. Do you have a sort of favoritism between those two DPS, or do you not really have a preference and just play what the team want you to?
I just play whatever. Yeah, I think I played Genji as well on like
You did
Anubis.
actually! The first
Yeah.
time we've seen him for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I just play whatever team needs me to win. So if they want me on Bastion, which they did want me on Bastion, I just go Bastion. You know?
You're telling me we missed the day that a Bay Alliance ran you on Bastion? Duh! We gotta
Yep.
check the mods back.
I'm disappointed, to say the
I'm
least.
sorry.
it was
My
against-
day
it was
is
against
ruined.
Samsung.
Well, with all these specialized DPS being locked in, one thing is very clear. If there's ever a time for a DPS carry, it's right here now. Whether it's the Widowmaker, whether it's the Genji, whether it's the Ashe, or a Bastion, a lot of the team's resources, and pretty much all of them, because even Tracer now plays a lot like a supporter, is how we've had it put, and it seems pretty accurate, being poured into you. What's it like playing like that with a lot of the team's weight being on your back?
I mean, I think we support each other in a sense in like in game, because wherever I just look so free and I'm just like Kovaxing, it's mostly because of Sunny and Health playing really smart and well with map rotation and like map space. Also, I couldn't survive for so long without like Mercy and Ana pocket from Khan and Admiral, but I don't feel like I'm the one who does the plays. I feel like I'm the one who just like I don't know, connects the shots sometimes. But it's very team based. It might look like I'm doing everything, but behind the scenes it seems like the real carry might be coming from the Ana, farming Nano really quickly, and Helv and Sunny just taking map space. I just sit in the back looking at the game.
Well, you definitely sound modest, and because you've come here and, risked the interaction of socialties, we do like to give people in these interviews the time to thank people from their team or from their personal life. Is there anyone that you want to give a particular shout out to?
Oh yeah, I want to shout out Vendetta on enemy team for teabagging. It was kind of cringe and embarrassing, especially when they were like 3-0 or 3-1 down or something. I saw him teabagging me once, and I question marked him, but I don't know. I don't know if you guys had the match chat open, but we had a conversation with them for like maps after maps, and after he teabagged on Eichenwald, they got pretty boring, so we wanted to wrap it up quick, and then give him a couple of words at the end of the game. But yeah, shout out to him only, and of course my team for playing as they were. Really well played.
Well, Bay Alliance certainly putting people in their place right about now. Huge congrats on the win. You know what? There's plenty of trials to go, so good luck in the rest of your matches. There's certainly some good teams ahead.
Alright, thank you guys.
Catch you later. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got another match on the board for you guys. It's Young and Beautiful going up against Hotbath in just a moment. It's bound to be a good one, so be sure not to leave for too long. Get yourself some orange slices, get yourself some halftime snacks, maybe a little bit of popcorn, and don't forget to hydrate. We'll be back in a moment with that one. Keep your eyes on your screens. Catch you shortly. And we're back, ladies and gents. Young and Beautiful versus Hotbath. This match bound to be just that, Moxie. We're ready to hop in. Hotbath have a little bit to prove, though. Yes, they are 2-0, but their road here hasn't been the most contested, has it?
No, they've gone up against CBA and I believe Vasta Gaming. So not quite the highest categories of teams that Group B is offering. I think today is going to be the real test. We got to see Young and Beautiful ourselves in action yesterday, though. And this is a team that progressively got stronger as soon as they were able to sort of get the aggression of their main tank EMEA player in line with the rest of the team. They started popping off and really flourishing.
Yeah, and like we said, these are new tanks. They've announced Lolzish and Happy Cool on Twitter. EMEA player is a bit of a wild card, but at the same time, we've also never seen EMEA player 249 and Lolzish in the same room as you said yesterday. So, you know, take that as you will. We're pretty sure he's somewhere on this roster just hiding, though.
It is a little bit like Spot the signed main tank, isn't it? But we do know that these guys can work together really strongly. One thing I want to point out yesterday was that Happy Cool's play on that off-tank role really impressed me. He was able to constantly keep the backline of the other side pressured out. Not only that, but always have a peel for that backline, and we're seeing, though, that peel is really necessary in this day and age where those supports just don't have the comfort of a Reinhardt or an Arista shield to hide behind.
Yeah, it's worth noting they did end up losing a match yesterday versus the Ultimates. The issue for them was their tank lineup and their DPS lineup synergy. They started off the match very poorly, going down 0-2, then started to drop back, and a lot of that was because initially all EMEA player, all Lolzish was doing was going in extremely aggressively, and no one was really backing him up. He was going in pretty solo. The second, though, that your kids and Yona started going in with them, started backing him up, the team clicked. Everything turned around. They started the reverse sweep, just barely weren't able to finish it off. The Ultimates did end up coming back, but there was a lot of promising stuff to be said about them. Hotbath, on the other hand, I haven't gotten to see them play too much. There's some solid names on here, but like we said, a lot to prove for them.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting matchup. I think it has the potential to go all the way to that 5th map. And I definitely think that Young and Beautiful want to prove themselves that they have the mentality, the fortitude to win out that long of a series, because they came so close still. We were getting the brooms out, we were getting the dust fans, and unfortunately we had to put them away at the end of the night. Young and Beautiful, their hopes, they fell apart on Busan. But if they go forward as aggressively as we saw them start to get to grips with yesterday, then they can start off solidly tonight and start posting up those first early rounds so that they don't have to worry about winning that second round of control point.
And you know what? They get to start off on the map that they lost on yesterday, get a little bit of retribution to themselves, and no surprises here. We expect them to run pretty standard stuff. It's all about how they come out of the gate. Young and Beautiful was a team that we all expected to show up and be in the top of Contenders trials. We expect them to make it on. They're one of the big teams in this group to keep an eye out for. The fact that they're starting off 1-1 isn't the greatest. It's definitely something they need to catch a bit of wind in their sails and a bit of momentum. And for Hotbath, this is their first matchup against a team of this caliber.
This is when we're going to see Hotbath either sink or swim, whether or not they have the ability to go up against teams like Young and Beautiful and come out unscathed on the other side. And I cannot wait to see this, because we're in a meta where it is all about the little things, whether or not you're able to use the EMP at the right time and you've got the follow-up, whether or not your Moira doesn't get picked early on in a fight. And that's why we're even seeing Moira. The support is so crucial to stay alive. You go for the Moira, you go for the Lucio to have that self-sustain, and that is something that Young and Beautiful will have over Hotbath. Even if Hotbath come out with Boostio on this Hammond, you still don't have anything that can really lock down the Moira, especially if your kids are sticking on the Sombra. You're just going to be hacked out every single time.
What on earth is this comp? All right, Wrecking Ball Roadhog. Lots of disruption here. Boostio is going to be acting effectively as a faux tracer, but they're on the back foot. They're not using this aggression at all. They're backing up into their Torbjorn, into their turret, but Akade's going to go down first here. Young and Beautiful applying a ton of pressure, and Hotbath just can't take it currently.
It's the aggression we saw
Oh
from
my god!
yesterday's series, and Duo Young and Beautiful aren't even giving Hotbath any respite. They're punishing the fact that Tricky Turtle's on the Roadhog. He's just providing so much ultimate charge for the DPS of Young and Beautiful right now.
Young and Beautiful get the point. They get the ult charge. They've come out of this fight with everything, Moxie.
Look at it, you kid, 65% to that EMP. Tricky Turtle, because he's on the Roadhog, he's still alive. He's the only one for Hotbath who's been able to close up to an ultimate. But Young and Beautiful have so many members that are about to hit multiples of those, rather than just the 1 minute flash of brilliance that Hotbath are going to be able to offer up.
And that's the difference. You can play these tricky compositions all you want if you're Hotbath, but when you hit those higher caliber teams, it gets real tough. They're not going to give you any space. They're not going to let your Torbjorn set up. It's going to be real hard to push in. Yona's taking out Alvacade. K using the overload pretty early there. Will get Dala for it, however, hack onto Bustio. I mean, you're just going to die every time on the Wrecking Ball. That's why we don't see him so often, is because the Sombra is just so good into him. Yes, you trade out for your kids here, but you need more than that if you're Hotbath. You need your Ana to stay alive. You need Button-Z to come onto this point and wreak havoc on the Brigitte. Doing so pretty well here. They've got a couple of ultimates to boot after this as well.
But remember, Young and Beautiful will be coming back in a couple of seconds. That's why Dollar uses that Sign Barrier to buy your kids the time to get back onto this point with the EMP.
The EMP cancels out the whole hog. Tricky Turtle stuck right in his tracks. Young and Beautiful need to end it now, though, because Hotbath have a couple more tricks up their sleeve should this come out. They've got the Dragon Blade. They have the Molten Core, and they're pressing all of the Q buttons to ensure this point flips over.
It's a heavy investment, but Young and Beautiful invested just as heavily, and so you can sacrifice the Hammond Mines to cut off Young and Beautiful's exit, force them right into the Genji Blade, and now Hotbath will have control of the point. They can set the Torbjorn up. This is when we're going to see the anti-dive composition really come into its own. However, though, it's when Young and Beautiful have already occurred 74% of the point final fight territory if they win a single one of these next engagements.
Oh no, Alvacade, he's hacked, he's gone! He thought he was safe. Trade out for Sky Reaper though, that's actually super duper worth for Hotbath. Young and Beautiful definitely need to wait for that support to come back.
Especially with Sky Reaper 73% to the Coalescence, which Young and Beautiful need to be able to barge their way onto this point, set up shop, and allow your kids the time necessary to hit this next EMP. And if you're Hotbath, you go as aggressively as we've seen Yab. You've got the Nano Boost, you've got to use it early.
They need to commit everything. Yavin's gonna chuck it in. Tricky Turtle, the man, the target. Gonna be finding plenty of value on top of that for Young and Beautiful. It's all about farming up EMP, getting your kids in a good position. You've already lost the fight. At least get an ultimate out of it.
Remember though, Hotbath will have things this time around to try and counteract your kids. And it's even harder for the Sombra to intrude in because look at what he's running into. You've got the Torbjorn turret, which is playing Spy Check. You've got Button-Z with the Break Bash that can cancel out your hack and force you to immediately translocate away. You've got to try and hack the Genji out. Sure, he's not going to have a nano, but you don't have the sound barrier, so each of these ultimates are going to be so impactful.
Well, starting off with that Cole, like you mentioned. Oh man, a K is way out of position right there. Completely away from the force, completely away from the tanks, and right in the line of Young and Beautiful. They find one. They're going to find a second. Your kids goes down with the MP. Should Hotbath start pulling this one back in the kill feed, they're not going to have that tool to win the fight guaranteed. But Young and Beautiful already have enough of an advantage. They should be able to pull this one over.
But remember, Hotbath won that fight last time with Hammond Mines and Genji Blade, and now they'll be able to have that open to them in this next engagement.
But there's so many ultimates up for Young and Beautiful, especially if these staggers come through.
Young and Beautiful, they just have to control how Hotbath move back onto this point, and they've got everything that they could possibly want to do that, though. Hafico can drop that Hammer Mines. Your kid's just waiting with the EMP to catch the Genji out.
Oh, it caught everything. The turret, the support. Sound barrier is in from Young and Beautiful as well. They want to seal this one out here, and now overtime ticked on. Hotbath needs some frags. The K is going to come in with a Molten Core, try and chuck it onto point. He's going to cover a lot of the ground, and in fact, it's paying off. Hafico and Dollar are down, and Young and Beautiful, they don't have tools to bring this one back right now.
Hafico's gone, the Hammond Mines, the threat, the space control is gone for Yab, and Sky Reaper's just got to hope Coalescence is enough to keep that overtime tick turning, and it's not. Hotbath are able to take this point, and my goodness, what a turnaround from having to go so very passively run away from the full-out aggression that Yab showed in that first opening fight, to being able to survive the EMP, to being able to survive when Dollar puts in that sound fire and all of the sustainability is open to your opponents. Hotbath are able to keep that flame burning.
I mean, that was just so weird. It felt like Young and Beautiful were driving the car the entire time. They were in lead ultimate-wise, they had the choice to use them whenever they wanted, yet Hotbath still came away with the map.
A big reason for it is your kids are just not finding value with the Sombra. Remember, Tricky Turtle's on the Roadhog. The reason we see Sombra go up against Roadhog is because you're meant to be having EMP every second fight, but your kids are only able to farm up 2. Because Hotbath are doing everything they can, they're still keeping the token in for the exact reason to stop the Sombra from getting in.
And now you're trying to push in much closer spaces. This Torbjorn's going to be really, really deadly here because no matter what, you're fighting on his turret. If he dropped low, though, and that key priority target now taken out. The turret's still up, though, still dishing out tons of damage. And Young and Beautiful, they want to play aggressive, but doing that into a Torbjorn, that's just a death sentence, Moxie.
And this is the same danger that Yab are going to be facing. They tried so hard to get that space back when they lost control of that point. And they've got to do the exact same thing, walking into the Torbjorn setup, walking into the Roadhog setup. It's going to be so very difficult to actually find Yavin because Liana, look how you're playing. You've got the Hammond, you've got the Roadhog, you've got the Brigitte, the Genji, all around that main support.
And this Wrecking Ball, it doesn't act so much as dive, it's just harassment whenever they do go in. Look at how low the supports get. Look at how the Ana has to drop on the point immediately. So much danger. Skyreap is in, able to stay alive for a little bit, but the fight pulled the way of Young and Beautiful off the back of it. A nice set of kills onto the back line of Hotbath.
Young and Beautiful able to come in. They keep their supports alive. Unfortunately for Hotbath, they lose theirs because the Hammond was playing Schoolyard Bully. And yeah, just have to be able to get this flip going. Remember, Hotbath, they're running the Hammond, not the Winston, so if they try to get back onto this point, they've got the delay tactic, sure, but they don't really have the peel in the form of Tricky Turtle coming back into the fight. And now Yab can set themselves up with this EMP. Dollar will have the Soundbar to let them go aggressively. They've got to be careful. Advocate has to be caught out, otherwise Nano Blade is going to come in.
Oh, but what sound barrier, Mox? They've got the EMP. They're lucky to have that. It should hold on for them. But they lost their Lucio in the process. Lots of ultimates still on board for both sides, though.
Young and Beautiful used the EMP. They didn't use the sound barrier, though, Dor, because Hotbath did not use the Nano Blade.
Yeah, now you're coming in with sound barrier. You have things to counter Whole Hog, things to counter the Molten Core, and the Blade, most importantly.
6 ultimates online for Hotbath, most importantly. They've got everything in the toolkit. They're going to start off with the rally, but that is going to get the Skyripper Nano Boost right into EMEA. But he's just chased out by the Whole Hog Door.
The team's still alive, though. They kept their Winston. They kept all their cards close to their chest. Hotbath have used so many of their ultimates. That's a 5th. That's a 6 ultimates for the fight. If they don't win here, Young and Beautiful are going to fall so far forward ahead. It's going to be impossible to come back for Hotbath. This is so much committed.
So very much. They had 6. They used everything, though. 6 ultimates, and you threw everything into a fight that you just lost. And they're not even close to getting them back. Look at your kids. Just use the EMP already halfway back there because you're running into a Roadhog.
Oh, what a sick bubble from EMEA player. He goes down for it, but he cut all of the healing away from those players that were caught out by the pile driver. It's going to put Young and Beautiful up in another fight, up in the ultimate charge, same place they were before they started this one.
And Hotbath need that advantage right now, though, because Young and Beautiful are going to be in that final fight territory, and Happy Cool, he's got the Hammer Mines to immediately shut this fight down.
Hacks in, a K dropping low, doesn't have overload. Young and Beautiful stuff him right back in the spawn. The same strategy on this choke point. Hotbath, they can't make space for this Torbjorn to actually do anything.
They can't make space for Advocate to get in either because Happy Cool just cuts off that Genji's movement with the ultimate. And now you've got the Promo Rage cutting Hotbath off even more.
Yeah, they're forced to touch. It's overtime for them here. The Whole Hog may be online in a moment, but I'll tell you what isn't. The rally. Jonah finds Buttonsy. Now Young and Beautiful, they just have the MP. They should be able to seal this one out every day of the week. But Hotbath right back in their place. And this one felt a lot more like how it should have gone, Moxie. Young and Beautiful, when they have the lead, they're able to use it to actually win the map.
And Hotbath have the exact same struggles when they don't have the space control and they have to set the Torbjorn turret up as they're intruding into that space. It just starts to go wrong for this team. Young and Beautiful have worked out that Hotbath are playing a very strange composition. Part of it wants to be invasive, part of it wants to be passive. And that means you can just shut all of those facets down by controlling the area that they want to be standing in. Happy Cool comes in with the Hammond Mines, cuts off the aggression, and Young and Beautiful just go after the Roadhog, punish the fact that he is such a huge target, and allow your kids to just burn straight up to all of these EMPs. And they're not even going to be changing much of anything. They found so much success with it on Mecha Base, and Hotbath are rolling out with the exact same thing. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I mean, the Torbjorn's no surprise to see again. It's a specialist hero, and Akei wants to run it really bad. I don't know how well that's going to work. They need to find the adaptations in this next round. However, even with overload out, the damage isn't enough. The dives from EMEA player, from Lolsish, have just been insane. The bubbles are perfect. He cuts off the heals every single time, and I'm sorry, your DPS aren't just going to be lasting that long in that situation.
And now Alvacade's hacked out, going to be staggered out. Buttonsy's trying to keep himself alive, but Young and Beautiful can just keep poking away at this composition. Your kid's already 60% of the way up to an EMP. He's not even going to use it to cancel the other side's ultimates out because they're not going to have any available to them right now.
Well, don't speak so quickly. We're trading players out 1-for-1. Hacks onto Boostio, though, just renders this Wrecking Ball completely useless. Hotbath are trading out kills in the feed, but they haven't actually gained the space to work with Mox.
That's the thing. That's the difference between Boostio and Hafikul. Every time Boostio comes in, he gets hacked out. Every time Hafikul comes in, he's only got to worry about getting out of line of sight of a Torbjorn.
That's not the trickiest thing ever. Torbjorn not known for his mobility. However, still a useful hero. Still winnable here at 30% up for Young and Beautiful. Hotbath are looking for the right way to re-engage, but it's Young and Beautiful taking the aggression, going up with a proactive EMP. Beautifully read and beautifully played, not allowing Hotbath the chance to take that fight.
Now, was a cheeky little backcap, but that meant that Boostio was actually away from the rest of the team and couldn't provide the attention away from the backline or even the front line in that fight. And they just walked straight into death. They got EMP. They didn't get a chance to engage blows. And so Hotbath still haven't been able to charge up these key ultimates. They've got Rally, but they've got to pop it so aggressively just to get themselves in.
Yeah, Young and Beautiful are coming up on pretty much all 6, save for the EMP. Hafikul drops mines into the support line. Akei's gone again. The Torbjorn is weirdly enough the first to die in pretty much every single one of these fights. They've made space onto the point. If they can capitalize on it, they're in a good position. But Alvacade has to pop the blade without Nano now, and he's hacked out. There's nothing he do. He's just slashing at the wind at this point. Lolsish is playing his mind out right now on the Winston, having a field day at 70% on the point.
It was a little bit of an overinvestment. Dollar actually puts in the sound barrier after you've already won the fight to try to counteract Alvacade's blade, but EMEA player was doing an already good job of that with the Primal Rage, and now if you're Hotbath, you've got an opening, especially with your kids going down. Punish the Lucio's misplay.
Well, they'll throw a nano boost onto Akei. He certainly won't be going down first in this fight, save some crazy stuff maybe. Actually, no, he's being targeted pretty hard on this Torbjorn. There's still good odds for him. Hotbath off that first pick. They're able to roll the fight. Young and Beautiful actually put the brakes on pretty hard, allowing them to take that fight.
As soon as your kids goes down, they know that they don't want this fight to go on longer because you're not building up to EMP. That's the one thing that Young and Beautiful are gearing up to in each of these engagements. As soon as EMP comes online, they go as aggressive as we've ever seen an EMEA team. They play like an NA team, in fact. And that means that they don't allow Hotbath the time to set up just like this.
Oh my goodness, the dives are so perfect now. Now that they've got that aggression, I feel like Young and Beautiful just know exactly how to play these games. They still have to take the point over, though. They've got a couple ultimates to boot. You kids nearing that EMP, but until then, the kills are relatively even in the feed. Cowering in the corner, Yavin, no! He's set up perfectly for Yona. It doesn't matter if the pulse bomb sticks or it goes onto the Roadhog or it goes on the ground. There's nowhere you can go but back to spawn after that one. 99% Young and Beautiful are set up to take this map.
They'll have the EMP as well if Hotbath try and put staggers on, so you can just hack them out, not let them get that overtime bar turning any longer. And Young and Beautiful will be taking Busan. And I've got to say, this team's looking clean. They know that Akei's going to be coming in with the Molten Core, and they play so spread out around the point. In fact, no one really taps onto it. They're all just sidelined around it until the Torbjorn ultimate comes out. And as soon as the Torbjorn ultimate's gone, that's when they go aggressive. They know that that space can't be yanked away from them in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, it took them one map and they adapted. You compare that to yesterday when it took them about 40 minutes to finally adapt. Night and day. And the one thing I want to highlight is every time Hafikul went in, every time EMEA player went in, your kids was waiting there with a hack. Like, bar none. This guy was backing up every push. He was charging EMP fast enough. And this was the difference that we pointed out yesterday, is the tank players weren't in sync with the DPS. Now the DPS know what the tanks want to do, and they're backing it up. The team looks unstoppable, Moxie.
And for Hotbath, they looked so strong on that first map. We got to see the composition that they're running. It was working. They had progress with the Torbjorn. Molten Cores were coming in. You could even see the Genji finding value by communicating with Booster's Hammond every single time those two ultimates came out. Heavy investment, but point percentage is always going to be worth it. It's just that, yeah, we're able to have that adaptation going through, and that's something we haven't seen from Hotbath. They've stuck with the Torbjorn, they've stuck with the Brigitte, they've stuck with this Hammond Hog, and unfortunately, Young and Beautiful have just outplayed them around it.
Yeah, it feels like they're going for, you know, the avoided Clockwork Vendetta, lock what we want, you guys adapt to us, but unless you are supremely good at these heroes, I might be thinking about swaps right now if I was Hotbath. Young and Beautiful aren't the same teams you've been playing. They're not a CBA. They're not a Vasta. They're not teams that are struggling to adapt right now. This is a team that has an incredibly strong mental, a very good coaching staff, and very strong players that all have a good grasp on the game and what they need to do when the other team throws something crazy at you. You're not going to catch Young and Beautiful off guard. You have to beat them with raw skill.
And that's something that I think we need to see on Junkertown. Because if you're not able to get that Torbjorn turret set up on Junkertown, then this map is going to be over very, very quickly, because Young and Beautiful are just going to be intruding the space. We saw it in the first series today. It's all about the team that does not respect the other. As you get aggressive and the other side's aggression doesn't match yours, doesn't have that final fight territory stand up, then you're just not going to be able to have any sort of hold on this map.
You know what I'm really concerned about, actually, is if Hotbath choose to go for this composition every single time. What happens when Young and Beautiful play defense with a Widowmaker?
It's a hard time, because you would hope when there's a Torbjorn turret set up, right, that a couple of resources at least would go into guaranteeing that it survived. It's a big part of your composition. It's meant to be one of the deterrents to stop something like a Tracer or a Hammond or a Sombra from getting into your back line. And it worked in the previous meta because it would be behind 2 layers of shields. But when you're running that Hammond and that Roadhog, there is nothing besides health bars to stand in front of that turret. And that means there is nothing to stop a Widowmaker from just jumping up, seeing where the turret is, charging the shot up, taking a couple dinks of damage, immediately being healed up by the Mercy Pocket, and then it's gone.
Well, you know what, Mox? I don't think we have to worry about that Torbjorn pick too much anymore. A K has been subbed out. Braven is popping in. Braven, a familiar face now on a Hotbath. Previously, I believe, Roar Esports, if memory serves correct. And I suspect it's all going to be about the hits cap. I think that's entirely what you swap him in for on Junkertown. And he has to pop off, because if the team continues to run the same composition around him, it's still reliant on those DPS showing up, as most things in this meta are.
And we've got to see that battle then. We have to see the DPS from Hotbath step up, because your kids at the moment on that Sombra isn't just running circles around the Roadhog, he's running circles around the entire team.
Well, it's more than just your kids, it's Yona, it's EMEA player. Honestly, I feel like EMEA player is playing out of his mind. Yesterday, there was a little bit of a ding to the confidence when he was going in and his DPS weren't backing him up. You could see he was trying to dive in dubious situations and wasn't so sure of himself. Now that your kids and Yona are always on his back, same with Happy Cool, he's going in, he's diving, the bubble timings are perfect. Like I said, he's cutting off supports with a lot of these, and I mean a lot of these. Every single time, the dives are perfect on the Winston. And you can see, I mean, the guy's prior owl, like, for good reason, Moxie.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen a cleaner Winston Primal Rage juggle of a Genji Blade in a very, very long time than the scene that we got to witness on Busan downtown, where poor Alvacate was just completely denied his entire ultimate. And that, I think, is something that Young and Beautiful have gotten really good at right now, denying what Hotbath want to set up. We saw it with the Torbjorn. Now we're potentially going to see it with whatever this team tries to put into play on Junkertown, and that is going to be indeed Braven coming out on that hit scan on that Widowmaker. Whether or not you're going to be sticking with the Widowmaker, or whether it's going to be just coming from that initial bit of spawn, see if you're going to be going up against Sombra or Tracer and then swapping onto the Ashe for a little bit more survivability, a little bit more mobility. I've got my fingers crossed that swap's going to be coming soon, but we've got to talk about this defensive composition. We talked about how aggressive Yap have been getting. This is aggression like we've never seen them before. Your kids on this May is going to be slowing all of Hotbath down, when the entire rest of Young and Beautiful do the exact opposite. This is going to be an absolute slaughterhouse in a couple of seconds.
Okay, I see your pick. It's cool, it's interesting. If this doesn't work, they're screwed, Moxie. They don't have a Widowmaker. There is nothing to contest these long sightlines. This is only going to work if they're able to hold on to this first part of the map. Oh, God, you kids. Oh, don't play with my heart like that. He gets hooked. He's bound to die after this one. Your May's gone. This entire push is now null and void. You've lost all. This was... I'll applaud their creativity, Moxie. But creativity is not exactly their strong suit here.
But there's the adaptability that we wanted to see from Hotbath. As soon as they saw that Young and Beautiful were going for this very aggressive front hold, Braven swapped onto the Reaper to pressure out the Winston to draw out so much resources, so much defense matrix onto him and away from the DPS, which leaves Tricky Turtle to just hook them in. And now Braven, job done, is going to be going onto the Widowmaker. And with Young and Beautiful, they don't have hit scan, they don't have contest.
This is questionable. I mean, Junkertown has had the same meta for God knows how long, for a very good reason, Moxie. And Young and Beautiful refuse to play that. You kids, he's gotten a lot more value on the Reaper than he has any real right to right now. But it's still Hotbath with the closer spawns, with the advantage in this fight, and with Lime still alive on the cart.
And look at how uncontested Braven is right now. Free to SMG with Widow's Kiss on the cart because there's nothing that can contest the Widow until the Nano Boost comes through.
Oh, the grapple really screwed him over there. Alvacate's going for it, though, with the blade. 20 HP to his name. Needs another kill. Can't find it, though. Hotbath sent back to spawn. It's going to be 4 versus 5 on the cart currently. EMEA player double dipping, though. Way too greedy on the Winston. Dropped to 72 HP. Can he go down? No. Finds himself a health pack to cower behind.
But Hotbath are going to be coming in with an awful lot of ultimates and the first pick. So EMEA player already gone down. There goes all of the aggression. There goes the threat of the dive to keep Raven in check.
Losa should come back in. They'll get one more contest. The bomb still is an option for them. They have a solid attempt at this one because Hotbath don't have any shields to hide behind when Havikool's bomb drops on this cart. Button Z, boop the side. Down goes Alvacate, Braven as well. No DPS left for Hotbath. Young and Beautiful are going to hold on to A.
And EMEA player is going to be popping the Primal just to ensure that this fight goes on even longer. Door. Young and Beautiful going to be holding on with ultimates to spare as well. But now you're falling into that same old pattern of the last meta. Lime on this Batiste is going to be the bane of this Sombra's existence. You don't have to worry about catching the Lucio out. You don't have to worry about stopping the Science Barrier. It's a 25-second cooldown deployable. That means the BAP has got to be caught in the blast.
And down go Hotbath for one more fight. 1 minute on the clock, and Young and Beautiful have taken a deceptive amount of time off of this clock. It's kind of passed like nothing. Now you've got EMP, Braven only 100 HP, no real supports to help him out. Young and Beautiful have to capitalize here, but they'll do so properly with Lime and Braven going down. Traded up for Sky Reaper though. There's a chance Hotbath find a couple of picks here, but I'm looking more towards that next fight when the Ana's missing.
That's really what Hotbath are looking towards as well. They're going to be coming in with the Blade. You've got boosted with the Hammond Mines. It's the set play that we saw a couple of times on Busan, and they've definitely got it available, but Doll's got to go first.
I mean, they'll drop him on cart and you have to contest it, but you can't because the mines are there. Love the play. Good heads up stuff from the Wrecking Ball. Your time bank not looking so hot going into B.
But you have snowball potential for this next fight. Alvacate will be coming in with the Blade. Granted, you've got to see it through Young and Beautiful Sound Barrier. And again, we're going to see that target priority coming out from this team. They wanted the Lucio gone in that last fight. They've got to collect the exact same thing. The ultimate has only been delayed.
The ultimates for Young and Beautiful looking pretty good right now. I'm looking for you kids to drop in. We haven't seen a Death Blossom in a very long time, so hopefully it's a big one. Go ahead and impress if there's no defense matrix, there's no nothing. Braven's looking for a one clip though. Not much to be found. However, the high ground belongs to Hotbath. You're going to have to take it out of their cold, dead hands if you want it. Dropping the Immortality Field, keeping the Roadhog alive. And now you've got Alvacate separated away from the rest of the team. His backline's going to go down if they're not careful. Good peel from the support zone. Great amplification matrix from Lime. Are going to keep him up and keep him cruising through B.
I mean, there's a reason we haven't seen Death Blossom in a very long time. It's got a lot of counters, one of them being that shield bash and one of them being Immortality Field. And Young and Beautiful did a very good job of drawing it out early. The Nano Boost goes on to your kids to make Lime put that in far too early until the ultimate comes out from the Reaper, but they're still not able to capitalize on it being gone. And now Sky Ripper's forced onto the Moira. Nano not finding anything, trying to hold up the Coalescence.
Well, they're not giving up quite yet, Mox. Young and Beautiful coming in with more ultimates to their name. That's what we saw happen on A. If they're not careful, Hotbath will get staggered out here. Start giving over way too big of one, but the supports are grouped up with the tanks. One little hit squad with a hook, and that's all it's going to take to end this fight for Hotbath if they could connect it. But the bomb takes out Alvacate yet again here.
Oh, you've got a Batiste. The Immortality Field should be there to save the Genji, but it didn't happen. And they needed the Genji. With 1 minute 3 seconds left on the clock and Alvacate being that close to Blade, if that fight had continued, Hotbath would have been able to swing it in their favor, but now you're at the risk. Dollar is so close to that signed barrier, and Skyripper can just pop the Coalescence, delay this fight out even longer. If Young and Beautiful play this perfectly, Hotbath won't be able to take the fight until the signed barrier is online.
Yeah, they can stall out. They can hold the high ground. Hotbath now have to fight for everything that was just given to them in the prior push. They may even have to use ultimates to do it. Raven's going to drop those mines on cart. Same strategy as the last point. Force that cart to move forward. Don't let anybody contest. Make them deal with the mines. But no, Young and Beautiful send one man on cart and drop the Sombra into the backline. Yona and your kids starting to work on those tanks, and Hotbath haven't really made any space yet.
They got Lime, the Batiste is gone, so the team's having to play so passively. The Blade comes through, is able to pick up Joel before signed barrier Joel. This is the team's best chance.
If they could take down Lolfish here, they're feeling pretty good. The Winston now out of the way. It's the Wrecking Ball in their sights. Pardon me. It's Boostio holding on to the cart, charging up those next set of mines. Young and Beautiful go to the next point with an ultimate advantage, but it seemingly just doesn't matter anymore, Moxie. Hotbath always eke their way by.
Alvacate was the absolute savior of that team, though. He's able to cut down Dollar before the Lucio can drop the signed barrier to save the team. However, you've still got to deal with it in this next fight, and that means your kids is going to be a lot more of a threat with that Death Blossom, especially with Hotbath. They don't have Defense Matrix, they don't have anything that can shut the Reaper down besides the hook, besides the bash.
In comes your kids. He's charging down Bunzi. I love this. He's trying to force out that shield battle, forced out those really key abilities before popping the ultimate. And now with Bunzi gone, he feels free to drop this Death Blossom. Is he going to the... Oh my god, he teleports directly on top of Lime. He gets both the supports for it. The hook's now gone. He should be able to drop in, but no. He wasn't able to get the Wraith form out in time, and so Hotbath just standing on the cart. Continue.
But he was denying Lime and Buttonsy an impact in that fight, and so they're behind in support ultimates. Dora and Dollar's still got this sound barrier. Alvacate's been able to hit the Blade, but now you've got the exact same problem. You've got to hit the Lucio with it first, and Young and Beautiful, Dollar's playing so passively, he's not going to get caught out.
Okay, Alvacate's Blade not allowed to do anything crazy this time. Hotbath wisely retreating, but Young and Beautiful get to hold on to a lot of ultimates for it.
But remember, Boostio's got those hammer mines, and something we've seen consistently from Hotbath is trying to free up that payload. They just have to be able to keep that overtime burning down, and Door, I don't think they're going to be able to touch up.
Nope, hook gone, Roadhog nowhere near. Your kid's gonna hold on there. Ochi taking down on the other side of the map. We'll take a quick little fly over to the cart as Bomb's gonna deny Lime any pressure. It's kind of sad to watch. Hotbath making most of the way through Junkertown. It's not an easy map to complete. It's a respectable distance. And honestly, I think they made it further than they had any right to after watching point A and B, but they got their Mox. Young and Beautiful, this is far from a gimme.
We were worried that Hotbath would stubbornly stick with the composition that they showed on Busan. They wouldn't adapt to what Young and Beautiful were running, but they adapted. The Genji Alvacate really stepped his game up in this round, went for that backline, tried to find Dollar before the Lucio could use that ultimate to save the rest of his team, deny Alvacate's hard work for absolutely just the one click of a button. And the tank lineup as well, they really stepped up. Boostio the Hammond consistently doing that sort of bait play where you drop the Hammond mines on the point, you force Young and Beautiful to turn around, similar to how we see Traces like those mosquitoes swattering around the other side, forcing abilities out that the other fight can go more smoothly.
Well, now it's all about the Widowmakers, Mox, not the Tracers. Yona's going to be playing it, but your kids and Braven, definitively the players to watch. Is this... I doubt this Orisa stays.
They're on
We
the
all
attack.
seen the state that she's in. Yeah, that halt, not the greatest thing in the world in recent memory, but you know, there's a chance. There's a chance. Hotbath have locked in the same thing, though.
Yeah, but remember, Hotbath know that they have to annoy the other side's Widowmaker to allow
my
Braven
God.
a little bit more setup. And that means that it's going to come down to Boostio, because Young and Beautiful, sorry a Roadhog, good for frontline pressure, not so much for bullying a Widowmaker out of her perch.
Raven's got plenty of sightlines to work with. So does Yona, though. They need to remove Alvocate before they're actually able to put Yona in that position, though. That's actually interesting stuff from the Widowmakers. They're playing opposite corners to what they usually would. Yona playing extremely passively. Knows that Alvocate will be waiting around every corner on the Genji. Has to wait for him to be cleared out. And so for the time being, it's Braven who has the better sightlines.
Yona's just being bullied out by Alvocate as well. So right now, Braven completely uncontested until the Genji falls.
That's the first time I've seen somebody die to the Venom Mine in a long time, Moxie, and it doesn't feel good ever. Now it's Braven who has to duel out, has to hit headshots. He's taking down tanks. Got the low HP on Yona, but is forced back eventually by EMEA player. Now notice there's a Tracer hunting around. Young and Beautiful are in a fantastic position right now.
Especially because Braven's just been completely cowed. The second he sticks his head out, your kid is back again on that Widowmaker hunt. And all the while, Yona gets free picks on this battle.
Braven can't catch a break, but Alvocate is giving it to him. Taking out the Widowmaker. Now free sightlines for him. He just has to make the most of them, and they should win this fight. Hotbath have found a little bit of reprieve off the back of one big Widowmaker pick.
Young and Beautiful. They're trying to do the exact same thing that Hotbath are doing, but Advocate is having a little bit more impact in actually getting the Widowmaker out of the fight rather than just turning her attention momentarily away. And they will be coming in with this big old blade, but Scaripper, he's on the Zen for a reason, though. He's going to be able to cancel it out with a button.
Well, that was almost a huge pulse bomb. Now that you have to look for a re-engage, yes, you have yourself an amplification matrix. Making the most of it is going to be tricky, and I think, oh, Braven. 2, can he find a third even? No. Shut down eventually, but Hotbath, the damage was done. They're going to hold on. 158 on the clock.
Still holding on to this Genji blade as well. So Skyripper is going to be target numero uno for every single member from Hotbath. Booster is going to completely ignore Yona and just go for the Zenyatta. Try and bully him out of this ultimate because that's when Alvocate's going to have an impact. Unfortunately, Skyripper's got a little bit more protection than Yona and Busho falls.
Without the Hammond, you were really lacking in card presence now. I think they wanted to just drop him on and hope he could contest, but now you have to throw Tricky Turtle, and now Tricky Turtle can't peel for the backline, and now Happy Cool gets to farm the backline for free. Immortality Field's been forced out. It's falling to bits for Hotbath. Oh, even the whole hog is going to be canceled. Wolf's just having a field day, dropping 360s on the cart, dodging Widowmaker shots left and right, and that's going to be point A, given on over with about the same amount of time as Hotbath completed theirs.
And we're still on the standoff. The Genji, the Zen, neither of these guys are going to ult first. And it's just going to be down to whether or not one falls in the combat. The second Skyripper falls first for Young and Beautiful, Alvocate is going to Blade, and it's going to be up to Happykul and Lulfish with these tank ultimates, Hammond Mines, and Whole Hog to shut the Genji's area control down.
Yeah, there's not much you can really do about Alvocate. He seems to get out with one pretty much every single time, and I don't think Sky Reaper really wants to commit a Transcendence to a dry blade. It just doesn't seem too worth it. You want to secure the fight, use it for stall, anything other than just for that one man. But Alvocate's been so dangerous in past seconds, you might just have to. He's trying to force it out. He forces out Immortality Field, but in the meantime, Boostio's gone down. It was greedy by Alvocate to hold on to that blade for so long. They're being punished for it. Popping sights now, everybody knows where Braven is. There's an entire volley going his way, dropped low. The cojones on Sky Reaper to peek this man right now are just too much with the Immortality Field out. There's nothing to stop Alfred from just reaching into the backline, pulling out that Transcendence, and now he knows the blade is free.
And now he can try and put it in if his team even need to use it, because that was his main goal. Not to put the blade in, but to get the Transcendence out because Young and Beautiful are lacking so much sustain right now.
Yeah, this Transcendence didn't really connect. I'm kind of skeptical on the Zenyatta pick in general. It's just so vulnerable.
It's vulnerable, but it provides a lot of damage, and when you don't have shields in the way, you don't have anything stopping that Discord orb from connecting onto a person's head and lumping them with 30% extra damage every single time they hit.
Well, just watch how Alvocate's going to go in here, target down that Zenyatta. It's so tricky. He can peel for the backline, but the second he catches Sky Reaper in his sights, you know exactly where he's going. He's got a blade, and that hero's only got 200 HP. Immortality Field has been forced out, but you're in a backline up against Alvocate, and look at how easy it is for him. It's a walk in the park for this man on the Ninja.
But young and beautiful Sky Ripper, this Sen's been pulling his own weight, or he's been doing so much damage without that shielding in the way, already 85% up to the next Transcendence, and because Alvocate just threw in the blade, you can use this one aggressively to enable your team to be able to walk forward and set themselves up on that cut, and they'll be able to. The second they get onto this cut, it suddenly becomes so much difficult for Hotbath to push them off when they're walking into a whole hog and Hammond Mines.
Yeah, one other thing I'll highlight, and now that the sights are out, it's even more important. Yona's really been struggling on this Widowmaker. He hasn't had an impact in the past, what, 4-5 fights? Not a chance. And Ellie's going to get sightlines away from Boostio and Alvocate. Alvocate falls, but even then, you're fighting a losing battle. You just don't have the ground to work with. You force him back into a corner. EMEA player, pardon me, Lulfish is going off right now. Transcendence has been forced out. Young and Beautiful are having to fight for this one tooth and nail off the back of their Roadhog.
But they'll have Amplification Matrix, and Tricky Turtle for Hotbath is already gone, which means no whole hog, no pressure to keep Young and Beautiful off the cut, and they'll be able to get that second check mark with ultimates to spare. Your kid's going to be able to hit that pulse bomb, and now you can bully Lime and that Batiste with the backline. You can use that to bait out Immortality Field. Dollar can drop Amplification Matrix and find so much more of an impact.
Yeah, we're having a little dance of death up on top of Fidget Spinner. Pulse Bomb forces out Immortality Field. It connects onto Boostio. If he gets hooked, that is really dangerous. Wolfish looks to take him out, but it's Sky Reaper you really need to be worried about. Now that he's got sightlines to work with, now that Zenyatta's actually established, he can go to town on this high ground. And oh my god, Braven, you be careful, bud. There's a robot with your name on it. In fact, Lolzish continues forward, disrespecting the hell out of Hotbath.
And Alvocate is just not able to get the space to build up to this blade either. And that means that Sky Ripper, if he continues to do damage completely uncontested, he'll hit Transcendence before this Genji hits the blade. And you're walking straight into a Widowmaker setup with an Amplification Matrix!
Ouch. And that's a preset play. I mean, they knew exactly where that Amp Matrix was going. That was so well done. And I love Yona's positioning to capitalize on it. Young and Beautiful seal up the third point like it's nothing and bring themselves the match point up against Hotbath.
Young and Beautiful are just acting like a well-oiled machine right now. This isn't the Young and Beautiful we saw yesterday, though. The tanks, the DPS, the supports, all of them are on the exact same wavelength. And we see it in those set plays. You know they're going to be walking out of spawn doors. You know that someone's got to try and contest that Widowmaker as they come out, otherwise it's just going to be a shooting gallery. So what do? You drop Amplification Matrix. And the Brigitte, Buttonsy, who's trying to hold the shield up to give a little bit of extra safety to Braven, gets shredded. First the shield, then the head, and then the Widowmaker falls afterwards.
Yeah, without the Widowmaker, things kind of fall apart on Junkertown as they tend to do. But up next, a little bit of a different map, a little bit of one that Alvocate may be liking to play. It's going to be Temple of Anubis coming in just a moment, ladies and gents. We'll be right back after a quick break. Quick break by my time. It's about 30 seconds that was. YAB currently in the lead 2-0 up against Hotbath, looking to steal it out on Temple of Anubis. Couple of swaps though. A K comes in, and I'm trying to remember who they swapped out for. It's Alvocate. Alvocate's out, so they're looking to play likely something of a Torbjorn Ashe on defense. I'm not sure what they're going to lock in for the attack though. If a K wants that Torbjorn, that might be a little bit of a hindrance when they try to push.
I'm a little bit worried as well that you're going to be putting a lot of weight onto Braven to win that duel up against Yona. Because that means when the Torbjorn comes in, the Genji goes away, the pressure, the additional pressure on that Widowmaker disappears alongside it. And so while that Torbjorn turret is going to be doing a very good job of dissuading the dive from coming through, we've also seen that Young and Beautiful can just sweep it to the side with a Widow Bullet right in the middle of it.
Yeah, and with the Widowmaker threat being there, I mean, I don't know what Hotbath have planned for the attack especially. It's going to be such a struggle. The same way it would have been on Junkertown had they kept the K in. You have to deal with the Widowmaker or an Ashe, and if a damage boost goes on to Braven, God knows what kind of havoc he's going to wreck on the back line of Hotbath.
That's definitely going to be one that they're going to be contested with, though, whether or not it's going to pay off. We're going to see, because we do know that Young and Beautiful play differently when they know that that Torbjorn is there, and more importantly that they play differently when they know Molten Core is up for grabs. They play a lot more passively, they play a lot more telegraphed when they go for these sort of sideline plays. If Hotbath are able to pull out the same sort of tricks that we've seen them aim towards, where someone will come in with an ultimate, cut off the team's exit, and then the real threat will come in and pounce on them, then they'll be finding a lot of value with it. However, we're yet to see Molten Core used in that way.
Yeah, it was only on the control points when they were forced to touch that it really found value. I think it's going to be a lot more difficult to get it in there. Maybe, though, they whip out something like a double bubble dive, then you can look at something like a Graviton comboed with a Molten Core to go for some big kills. I think it opens the door for some pretty interesting combos. It's whether or not they're prepared to run those heroes.
It's definitely going to be, I think, the toughest task on the attack. Torbjorn does not have a lot of mobility, and if that turret doesn't have the space, doesn't get to be set up before the fight begins, it will be gone just as quickly as you try to throw it out. And so they've got to be able to post up some pretty good times and go for that delay tactic rather than being able to let Young and Beautiful walk away with point A after the first push.
Ready for battle.
Do they lock in the Torb? Of course they do. Surprise here. Braven on the Tracer is a surprise. I really expected an Ashe out of him.
You can see how scared they are of running up against Hitscan. They know with a K on the Torbjorn, you don't have the Genji, you don't have the threat to keep that other side's DPS in check. And so you're allocating it to Boostio and Braven, and because Tricky Turtle's going to be there on the Roadhog rather than the Zarya, Boostio needs to have someone to take attention away from the Hammond, and that's going to fall to Braven.
Braven's got a lot of weight on his shoulders. Are Young and Beautiful actually going to lock in this May is my question. I think they were expecting a Torbjorn Ashe, Moxie. I think they thought it was going to be hard to get past these sidelines, but it won't exactly be so.
They're going to be running with the Reinhardt, and then suddenly, it feels like the beginning of this year, and I love it. They can just take this fight to the point as quickly as possible. Doll's even going to go into the Lucio. They're just going to speed boost straight onto that high ground, deny it from Hotbath, and it doesn't matter if you're running a Torbjorn turret, it doesn't matter if you're going for the annoying DPS. You can't dive this main. She's got the primary freeze, she's got the flashbang.
It's actually a really sick swap from Young and Beautiful. Execution still needs to be shown. It's like a team competition. They haven't run too often, but the Roadhog cut off from the wall. They're playing it beautifully. It's like they haven't missed a step since last time we saw Mei Kree in the meta. The K's turret takes down Dala, but they've got point control, Moxie. They're starting to find what they need. If they can take out Boostio, they're in a fantastic position.
They just need to take this Hammond out, and they are so well equipped to deal with it. The Mei was even gonna cut a K off. He's just food in the blender right now.
And look at how much ultimate charge they got off the back of that, Moxie. The threat of the snowball is ridiculous right now.
And Hotbath, they're having to swap lines onto the Lucio just to try and delay this point for as long as possible, to try and let the other members of the team come into any sort of ultimate to delay Young and Beautiful's point B push.
230, still the point hasn't been taken. Hotbath really concerned with trying to contest this one, but I really wouldn't be, because look at the ultimate charge on the Mei. If they still take this over, that's it. Second point is all but guaranteed, Mox, and there's only a couple of players. That's it. They're going over to B.
Hotbath need to swap a Batiste then. They won't be able to build up to that Soundbar. They've got to cheat the ultimate economy, though. and throw out that deployable because Young and Beautiful, they're coming in with Bomb, they're coming in with Blizzard, with Shadow, with Coalescence, with Barrier, with Pulse Bomb. Everything you could possibly want to hit point B in one fell swoop.
Oh boy, this is gonna be explosive, quick. 6 ultimates, nothing to do. Okay, has a Molten Core. It's about the only thing you can do to deny them space, but I don't think they give a damn. I think they're gonna walk right over this Moxie, straight into the Torbjorn's face. Get ready to drop the beat and the Blizzard here as your kids throws it in, takes down Tricky Turtle. The pressure is all on now for Hotbath to come in and recontest this one. Only the bomb is left here for Young and Beautiful, so after this, it's all about taking out those staggers.
You've got to take the Roadhog and Lucio out. They are so very close to ultimates. That's what Hotbath are banking on, that Young and Beautiful burnt everything out in one massive big swoop, and Hotbath will be able to win the sustain fight because of it.
They're balancing the pressure really well between the Brigitte, the Lucio, and the Hog. Popping Coalescence, though, Young and Beautiful have had time to charge up a second one. It's going to be the recontest from Malime and the Sombra that you really need to watch, though. Take down your kids, you can take down the point, but the May just offers so much sustain, Moxie.
The Brigitte's gone, and there goes Hotbath's sustain. Lime's going to be trying to keep everyone up and alive, but that's not going to do anything in the face of a pulse bomb that sticks a K!
I mean, the second round of heroes are gone. This is all but guaranteed now for Young and Beautiful. And I'm going to hand it to them. Out of everything I've seen some crazy stuff this Contenders Trials. This is the sickest team comp swap I've seen this whole time.
It's the perfect read, too. They know that Hotbath are going to run Busio on the Hammond, because you just got absolutely wrecked by hit scan on Junkertown. You've got to put something in the way that can contest the DPS. So whether it's the Genji, whether it's the Tracer, whether it's the Hammond, Flashbang and May Primary Freeze shuts both down. And Young and Beautiful just speed boost their way in. They don't go straight for the point, they go for the high ground, knowing Hotbath have got to contest them. Knowing that the defense has got to have a grip on that space for their supports to be able to sit safely. And they bait them in. They lay the foundations, and then they absolutely snap at the heels of every single member of that defense that comes to contest.
And no real surprises here on the defensive comp. It's a lot harder to run the brawl here. It's a lot harder to force those fights to happen and walk around the back line. I'm more concerned with what Hotbath are running, but of course your kids on the Sombra is always a threat.
Yona is going to be an even bigger threat right now, though. Dollars onto the Mercy to give the damage boost for the Ashe, and so whatever Hotbath run out with, Widowmaker, Pharah, both are going to have to be contested by this DPS and come out victorious on the other side. And I like... Oh, wait, they had Zarya for a couple of seconds, but there it goes. I would have much rather see Tricky Turtle on that Zarya to give Boopsy a little bit of extra life when he goes for those dives. Instead, you've got to let the Roadhog actually walk into the fight, and that puts him right in the crossroads of you kids.
I will say, there's a bright side here that Akay plays something other than a Torbjorn. We were really worried about what they were going to do on attack, and you know what? Pharah Mercy is definitely in the cards. I don't mind it at all. Braven on the Widowmaker. A little bit questionable here. Very diveable for Lulsish and Happy-Cool, and Akay gets taken down early. So resing that is going to be extremely difficult, but nice little tech by Buttonsy to pick them back up. And they've gained the space that they want. It's about making the most of it now as this Pharah can start raining hell from above. Happy-Cool's taking out Tricky Turtle, and Akay now gone. No res for that one. Now you have to put on the brakes.
Hotbath, because they're not running that Diva, because they're not running the Zarya, they've got nothing to cleanse Skyripper's anti-nades. And look at the Ana's ultimate charge right now, though. Head and shoulders above everybody else in the rest of this lobby.
Yeah, the Sombra is really interestingly played super defensively. Like, far back to the point where it's more of a support. It's stopping the dive, and I love it because Boostio is completely neutered by this. They swapped Tricky Turtle. He's got the Roadhog, but I don't think he's able to have any real sight lines. Lulsish is cutting everything off with the bubbles. This feels indomitable from Young and Beautiful.
And you're going to be walking right into not just the entire team door, but the EMP as well in a couple of seconds. And poor Boostio, because he doesn't have the Zarya, because he doesn't have a Tracer, he dives in alone and he's down in seconds.
Oh, you get, oh my god, you kids almost got hacked out of stealth. That would have sucked. That would have felt real bad. Luckily for himself, though, not going to be doing so. He's got EMP. A little bit tricky to hit a lot of these Hotbath players because they're so split up, but you only need to catch one. You only need to catch the Hammond or the Hog to get real value out of it. You catch one of those, the tanks are gone, and all of a sudden Hotbath can't really go anywhere. However, the Nano is real threatening. It knocks Buttonsy into the corner. Lulzich is just insane on this Winston today. Such a difference from yesterday, Moxie. It's night and day.
And Nano didn't even need to get picks. It just needed to bait out Immortality Field, but because the Winston was uncontested, because he was coming up so much in the kill feed door, they keep a hold of EMP, and yes, you managed to get Sky Ripper. Tricky Turtle had to walk all the way around. That's definitely a level of sneak we've not seen a Roadhog pull off, but the rest is there, and you don't have a team to try and stop the Mercy from pulling it through. Raven's gonna pop in for sight. You're gonna know where your kids are setting up, but the Som's been playing so passively, she's not gonna be caught out, and even then, Lulzich just there with the peel.
Yeah, I feel like the real, well, oh, that hurt. EMEA players knocked in the back. Oh my god, the sleep in the bomb! Oh, Tricky Turtle. He gets the old school combo to the face. 5 versus 5 now on point. No more Lulzich to try and carry you through this one. You've got EMP though, and you're feeling fine because your kids has charged up. Bob on the point, fully knocked on as well to make sure it's contesting. This is a really difficult push, especially if Lime goes down.
This is going to be final fight territory, and you can tell Young and Beautiful holding onto this EMP for the moment Boostio drops his mines. They know this is the moment when they've lost control of this space. This is when Hotbath really get to play the composition the way they want to, with Molten Core, with Hammond Mines.
No, Moxie, no. You're not allowed to press either of those buttons because your kid says so. They can't press any ultimates. They can't press Whole Hog, they can't press Rally, and now, yes, even if you get the mines off, even if you get the Molten Core off, you're still 2v6.
They know that the Torbrand's not going to be able to get back in time as well, though. He just went down, 17 seconds left on the clock. You don't have a Primal Rage. You don't have anything that can draw out this fight. You've just got to be able to land yourself on the point, and you don't need an EMP to stop the Hammond. You just need that normal hack.
I mean, the real issue I see here is they don't have a proper win condition. You have mines on point, and that's won you pretty much all of the escorts you need. They've gotten the value. They've covered every inch of ground going back to that point, Moxie, and I think it may just pay off. Young and Beautiful now have to contest into both lava and vines, and you know what? It's out of the pot and into the volcanic fire for them. They're going to see point B.
You gotta ask yourself, what would be if your kids had held on to that EMP? But they don't have it. They can't shut down the Hammer Mines. They can't cancel out the Molten Core. And now Hotbath get a new lease on life. 2 minutes, 48 seconds to build up to those yet again. However, Young and Beautiful in this next fight are firmly in that driving seat. They've got the Nano Burst, they've got the Diva Bomb. You can put that onto Lulzich, and that will just force Hotbath right into this defensive hands.
Oh, this is a sick push from Young and Beautiful. They saw the tanks move forward. They saw those backline divers move forward. So they go for the supports, and now you're in a small room up against Lulzich on Winston. I would not want that anytime, anywhere. It's Hotbath going down. They didn't even get to charge up that much in the way of ultimates either.
And one thing that they did masterfully there, though, was pull out Lime's Immortality Field. The Nano Boost comes onto the Winston. The Zap has no choice but to plonk that deployable down to make the fight have even a little bit of chance on evening out. When the Nano Boost runs out, hope to have a team still left. You'll have it again as deployable at 25 seconds, and you're going to need it in this next fight if your kids is able to build up to this EMP, because Hotbath are still waiting to hit that win condition still. They're so close to those Molten Cores, to those Hammer Mines, but they don't have them just yet.
It's crazy that we can consider Molten Core and Hammond Mines to be that powerful of ultimates, but they use them like they are a singular hack on a boosty, though. Shuts the entire thing down. We get a little bit of pressure on point, but as long as Young and Beautiful deny this point percentage, it's just more ultimate charge their way. They hold on to the EMP.
Well, you say deny point percentage, but they've been doing one thing consistently, denying Boostio ult charge. Your kid has been able to hit the EMP, but because Boostio was the first one to go down thanks to that hack, he's not been able to hit the Hammer Mines, and Hotbath have got to wait yet again. They don't want to put Molten Core and Hammer Mines in, and one is not available.
I mean, it's almost guaranteed that he hits it in the next minute, though. They will hit their ultimates. You're sent back to spawn by the EMP likely here. However, there's a trade on to Sky Reaper. You're walking to their territory where there's a turret and such. Young and Beautiful need to be careful not to put themselves out of position, because Hotbath's re-engage here is going to be pretty nasty with the Whole Hog online as well.
And it's the exact same problem. Your kids uses that EMP when there's still a fight left, and now Hotbath is just going to have to be those normal ultimates, those normal hacks to shut Boostio down.
Boostio sent back to spawn though, 30 seconds. They need to be careful about staggers here. More importantly, Hotbath need to be careful, because if one pick goes in, that's 20 seconds off the clock that you don't have.
You've got to be able to get onto this point as well, Dor. Remember, 21 seconds left. Someone's got to go for this touch. You kids, though, you don't have to worry about the Sombra. He's back on the Doomfist.
Oh no, Hotbath are going for it early. They've pushed on the point, but it's not in overtime, and that seems to be what wins it for them 90% of the time. But Young and Beautiful, they staggered them out so hard. The impatience is wearing thin for Hotbath, and Young and Beautiful are looking like they're going to come out of the series 3-0 with the win, as well as setting themselves up 2-1 overall in Contenders Trials, tying up Hotbath, giving them their first loss as well.
That should be overtime work burning down, and Young and Beautiful will be taking Anubis will be taking this series, and this is a team that you should be absolutely terrified of if you're going up against. They've got so much synergy that we're seeing between the supports, the tanks, the DPS, such a good understanding of how everyone should be playing. No one is really out of position, and the only times that we see this team start to falter is when they get a little bit overconfident and invest things like that EMP in a little bit too early, but those are things you can very quickly rub out.
Absolutely, and it was the continued success of Young and Beautiful that we expect to see. They continue to improve. Today and yesterday is a ridiculous difference, Moxie. I thought Lulsish looked incredible. I thought Ya Kids was playing with them every step of the way. What do you expect them to go all the way in this group? It was a rocky start, but they're only 1 loss down. They definitely could finish out this Trials run.
They definitely could. They've got some real opportunities to. A lot of it is going to come down to whether or not the Ultimates lose a map. Hotbath being, well, 2-0, now going to be 2-1, are in danger of dropping out of that first spot if the Ultimates are able to pick up the win today, and that means that Young and Beautiful may very well be able to maneuver their way into that second spot.
I think this also spots out rocky stuff for Hotbath. At 2-1 now you're getting into the big boys. Yes, you took out CBA. Yes, you took out Vasta, but they're currently sitting at the bottom of the group for a reason. You still got the Ultimates. You still got Shoes, Money Crew. There are a number of tough teams ahead. Hotbath look like a promising team at times. They got a long way to go, Moxie. We will be back in a moment, pardon me, with an interview. Cesaurus is up and ready for us. Hello, Cesaurus. Welcome back to the broadcast. Hope you're enjoying yourself. How'd you feel about your team's performance?
Hello. I think we played good overall. They are an interesting team that play like a lot of the ball hawk strat, so it's a lot different than we're used to in scrims. But I think we improvised very well and did good as a team.
And so you're Young and Beautiful's coach, which means you're in charge of like how these teams come into these games. Did you have them do any sort of special preparation running up against Hotbath?
So yeah, I'm the head coach. I do most of our strategizing and our team compositions. For Hotbath specifically, we just went over what they like to play. They have like an interesting 3 DPS kind of rotation. So we just saw, hey, if they play Ake, then they'll play Torbjorn. If they play Braven, they'll play hit scans. If they play Elvacate, they'll play like Genji or Pharah stuff. So it was relatively easy against them because you just see what they're putting in, and then you can base your strategy on the players they have in around that. So that worked out very, very well for us. Overall, we just had a quick warm up as a team, and we went into the match with just full confidence, full energy. We need to win out the rest of the Contenders Trials, of course, because yesterday we lost against the Ultimate, so now we need to win every game to make Contenders.
Well, I mean, it's looking really promising. Your tank line is looking more and more synergized. You talked a little bit about special adaptations you made for Hotbath. I want to point out one in particular, and I want to know where it came from, who called it. The Brawl pick, May Cree, Diva Reinhardt. We went back a couple months with that one. Oh my god, it was such a good call.
So I'm actually the one that called that because they kept playing more and more counter dive strategies because we were playing so much dive. So eventually they just started playing so little like long range damage that we could just walk in there and just sit on the point, and they had to push into us. So it's just a quick mid-game adaptation because they just kept playing more and more of this anti-dive stuff. Like they played Brig, they played Baptiste, They played Torbjorn, which is all great against Dive, but it's not really good against like May and Reinhardt.
And so you guys definitely stepped it up today. We saw some real star players shining. I know Walzish definitely stands out for me. I'm sure he stands out for Dor as well. But is there anyone that you think on the team who really stood out for you and deserves the title of like MVP?
I think Sky Ripa did really well. Like we came into this thinking we would play Moira. He had a clear like mind. He said, hey, Anna's gonna be really good against their composition, and he nailed it on the Anna. He kept hitting like the biggest anti-nades. He never got picked. He hit big sleeps. Made good game plans for us, which you don't really hear when you're playing the game as well, or when you're watching the game as well. But in the communication department, that is one thing that's very important. Like teams coming up with their best game plans and like setting up well for fights, and he did a phenomenal job. So I definitely say next to our great and new tank line, which we've only had 2 warm-up scrims with, 3 now since it's the 3rd day. He stood out for me. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys look better and better with every match. I think you could see it in just the Ultimates game yesterday. I mean, you almost pulled it back. Every single map got better, and then today you came back with a vengeance. You guys look indomitable, and I can't wait to see where you take this team further. A couple more games to go, but you're looking like you might just be able to pull them out. Congrats on the win today. Thank you so much for popping in.
Thank you for having me, and have a nice evening.
You as well. Ladies and gentlemen, as for yourselves, you can go ahead and have a nice evening as well. That's all that Monkey Bubble has for EMEA coverage of Contenders Trials today. There's plenty more going on tomorrow, same time, same place, so you won't want to miss it. So from everyone here at Monkey Bubble Productions, have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.